everybody. Pop Culture Curator here. So good to see you. I'm happy to be back. I think I missed a stream or two last week because I was a little under the weather due to my treatment, but I'm feeling better now. I'm excited. I'm going to get caught up with both feet running. And to start off, I wanted to say hello to my esteemed fellow panelists. Hello, and I'm going to go. I always seem to, by habit, go clockwise. So, how you doing, Gorilla, tonight?
I'm doing all right. More tired than I usually am, but I'm here.
Well, we'll try to keep you entertained, and we'll try to get through this rather briskly if possible. I think we will. We've been doing pretty good the last few streams.
Yeah.
Thank you for your comment, Pooch. And Jill, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I always love to hear what your poodles have to say.
I know. Well, sometimes it's not always positive, but I usually try to filter it. And PvP, how are you doing today, tonight, this evening? Good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. The workday went fairly briskly, so I wasn't bored to tears. So that was good.
Oh, yeah, that's always a good thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually working 4 hours less this week because one of the guys I make calls for didn't want me calling because it's Thanksgiving down in the States. So he said just skip this week. No, but he said just skip this week because people are busy, getting ready for that and traveling and shopping or whatnot. So he said just do double time next week. And so I thought, okay, that's fine. So I get Thursday off, so that's nice.
Yeah, sometimes even. Yeah, and sometimes since Thursday's Thanksgiving, people tend to take the whole week off. And they don't want to be bothered with business matters, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised he's the only guy that emailed, to let me know that because none of my other guys have said anything. So I'm just going to figure it's a business as usual kind of week for them. So
does that mean paid vacation or paid day off?
Well, I get 4 hours less work, yeah. But I'll make up for it next week, right?
So, good. Okay, yeah, that's always good.
Yeah, it'll balance. Okay,
yeah, I want to say hello and wonderful and welcome to the chat. I want to thank you all for being here. Looks like the first one that popped in, Suzanne Epstein, but she wasn't able to stick around. She had things she has to do. She has issues she's dealing with, unfortunately. And Suzanne, if you were listening, you're in my prayers. I hope everything works out for you and your grandson. Suzanne says, "Hey there, Pop. Can't make the show, but here's a like and hello. Have a great stream." Well, thank you, Suzanne. I'll be seeing you soon.
You have a good night there, Suzanne.
Yeah, have a good night, Suzanne.
And Lemon Pie says, "Hello, Pop. Hello, Lemon Pie. So good to see you and welcome." And Antiderivative Jill says, "Hello." And PvP says, "Hi, everyone." And PvP says, "Sorry you can't make it, Suzanne. It's a good episode tonight." I think so too. I think I can agree with that, at least in my opinion. Lemon Pie says, "Hello, Jill." PvP. And PvP, aka Pleasant Valley Picker, says, "Hi, Lemon." Lemon Pie says, "PvP, are you joining the panel tonight?" I would say there's a good possibility of that. And I'd Jill says, "Hello, Lemon Pie."
Yeah. Hey, Scurvy.
And PvP says, "Hope so, Lemon." And PvP says, "I'm always on the Lost in Space panel." That's right. Lemon Pie, once more, PvP shall be on panel, and we shall have peace in the galaxy. Lemon Pie says, "Hey, Gorilla." And Lemon Pie says, "The dog barked, B+." Yeah, that's his review. I just needed to decipher it. Okay, so once again, welcome, everybody. Good to see you. If you're watching this on the rerun, I hope you enjoy it. If you have not yet done so, maybe consider hitting the like button, subscribe to my channel, and set the notification and alert bell so that you will know when I'm having my streams. Excuse me, my voice is a little rough. It'll smooth out, I think, the more I talk tonight. But yeah, I have a stream on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturdays if you're able to join us, as well as my fellow panelists. They also have amazing, wonderful channels with lots of entertaining content. And we'll be posting links to their channels throughout the chat tonight, throughout the stream. And I encourage you to check them out when you get a chance. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised. Okay, so tonight we are on the last episode of Season 1, Episode 29, Follow the Leader. This episode originally aired Wednesday, April 27th, 1966.
Yeah.
And the description is as follows. An evil spirit possesses John Robinson and plans to fly the Jupiter 2 back to his home world, even at the expense of Will's life. And it looks like this episode rated rather high compared to some of the other ones. So just a general opinion, what do you guys think
Yeah, me
about
too.
this?
For me too.
Sorry. Did you like it, Jill?
I did.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, can we point out the mistake they got here right on the screen? They let Dr. Smith use a laser pistol, and surprise, he got lost.
And they trusted him to hold the rope when John was going to climb down the cliff.
Yeah. Wow. Big mistake there.
Uh,
Oh man.
Yeah, I think we're going to have fun tonight. I thought it was a good episode as well. And I'm thinking about if you were a kid back then and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is the last good episode. And now we got summer, we're getting out of school, and we won't get another episode until September. I'm pleasantly pleased that they went out in a bang, I guess you could say, with a good episode. So I think that worked well because I know some of the production earlier in the season seemed a little rushed, and I know we've covered that. And I'm excited for, as everybody knows here at the end of the episode, as introduced, we're going to be going into color starting season 2. Okay, so, and you notice how, I'm sure you noticed too, also, Gorilla and Jill, that color really popped when they showed it. You can see the difference between the color and the black and white. Pretty nice, isn't it? What do you think? Okay.
Yeah,
What?
it looks nice.
Now, what?
uh,
How do you think the color? How do you think the color looked in the preview for next week, Gorilla?
I love 60s color.
It looks better than these days, that's for sure.
Yeah. The thing about 60s color is it always pops like right off the screen, right?
Yeah.
It's so bright.
Yeah, they want to make sure to sell those color TVs.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I think it depends on what the show is nowadays, but it's better than 70s color and better than 80s.
I don't know, off the top of my head, I can't think of any shows that have good color like that. And not only that, though, but film stock has come a long way since the 1960s. So the film we have now is actually better and more sophisticated. But you wouldn't know it by the way they dial everything down and they put digital filters everything. It looks terrible. 60s was a completely different film stock. But they saturated that color and it really pops out and it looks good in my opinion. And it's sorely, I really miss it. I don't like the way they shoot modern day TV and movies.
Well, the thing is, too, Pop, is they have terrible lighting in a lot of TV and film these days, right? The lighting is just atrocious in some projects. So
Well, you have
yeah.
you have these idiot, self-centered, precocious directors who say, "Well, I intended it to be dark. That's part of the picture." And it's like, and the audiences are complaining and they don't care. Like Christopher Nolan, he's a good director, but he likes to a lot of times shoot in the dark and make it where you can't hear the audio. And even though people complain, he doesn't care. He thinks that's part of the art.
Yeah.
You have to engage the audience. If you don't engage the audience, they're going to be tuned out, obviously. So they've got to be able to see and hear what's going on.
Yeah, what I don't get is how they just don't seem to care about the audience at all anymore. It's really weird.
Yeah. Oh, on this particular scene here, we hear the second scariest words ever uttered.
Uh-oh.
And what is it with that?
Never fear, Dr. Smith is here.
That's right, which means that's the last thing you want to hear, right?
Yeah. So those are the second scariest words.
Well, what's funny is the reason why you notice he's always so helpful when he's on the borderline of being in trouble. So he's doing this because John Robinson is saying, you dropped that laser in here and just left it. And of course, Dr. Smith is making excuses. And that's why he's always over the top at being helpful, which seems to be a pattern with his character. So whenever Dr. Smith is offering to be helpful, there's something wrong and there's something up that he's trying to hide. So here we have where Dr. Smith is climbing down to look for the laser that Dr. Smith left behind. He unfortunately trusts Dr. Smith in holding the rope. And then the cage starts shaking. I would have just tied to a rock. But the cave starts shaking, and they're getting an earthquake. And Doctor, sorry, Professor Robinson tells Doctor Smith to pull him up, but instead of doing so, Doctor Smith panics, lets go of the rope, and Professor Robinson falls and lands and is knocked unconscious. And as we see the door close to the entrance, of course, we have Dr. Smith panicking, and I think he's more worried about his own hide getting in trouble than anything else.
Yep.
And meanwhile, in the interior, down where John fell, I'm not sure how long he was supposed to be out, but I don't think it's very long because we are going to get the scene where Dr. Smith rushes back to the Jupiter 2 for help. So he apparently underground, he finds his underground temple here. And he finds this big door. I don't know. I thought it was odd that, I guess, unless the door has hinges, he assumed the door opened from left to right. Because me being right handed, I would have tried the door from right to left first. But oh well. I know that's kind of a non sequitur.
I don't know. I'm left-handed, so if there's no door handle, I'd probably assume it'd open like any other regular door.
Well, there was no handle, and I was thinking, unless you see the hinges.
Sometimes it varies. So like in my apartment here, there's some doors that are open like left to right, and there's other doors that open right to left. I mean, it's just weird, but it's just the way the building is, right? So
Well,
Right.
you'd think they'd have had that all synchronized to the same.
nope,
Yeah, you think
nope.
it'd be a standard, but yeah, you're right. In one house, you can
They
have left
don't.
to right, right to left,
Yeah.
all of it.
Well, the thing is, it's an early '80s building too, so it's like probably around 40 years old. So I guess back in those days they maybe just did things that way. I don't know.
I had an old house, and the plumber worked on the bathroom sink, and he was done. The cold was on the left, the hot was on the right, and he kept arguing, telling me that's how it's supposed to be.
Oh boy, somebody mixed the lines up, I guess, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
But
I
that
mean,
was a
it
really
one-
that was also
Go
a
ahead,
really
Jill.
good teaser. It set up an intriguing mystery of what was going on, and it takes a little while for it to be revealed. So it's neat.
Yeah, I'm just thinking,
Yes, it
Barney
is. I completely
Slater.
agree.
Didn't Barney Slater write a real bad one a few episodes back?
Well, I might be
Which
covering
episode,
that here
Steven?
from the book. Go ahead, PVV.
No, I'm just saying. Barney Slater. I mean, he obviously wrote a number of episodes, but I think there was one we watched like maybe 3-4 weeks ago that was a real stinkeroo. And I think Barney wrote that one, but I could be mistaken, I suppose.
I'll be covering some of those that in it when I cover the assessment here.
He wrote some good stuff. He wrote The Keeper, which is awesome. The War of the Robots, also good.
Oh yeah,
So I don't know what he. I didn't really like The Space Trader, but
that could be the
this,
one.
yeah.
He's
Right,
inconsistent, is what I would say.
which tends to be either the same for most of them, except for Peter Packer. He tends to be on the lower end, I guess you could say.
My favorite Lost in Space writer, good old Peter.
Okay, so I'm going to cover a little bit of dialogue here from the book Erwin Allen's Lost in Space, the authorized biography of a classic sci-fi series by Mark Cushman. And I want to mention that this is the last chapter in the book because this is the last episode before we get into season 2, which is a different book completely. And I have that as well. I was able to obtain that, so I'll be ready to go for next week. And I'll be plugging that. Actually, it's week after next. Next week, we're going to be covering the pilot, everybody. No Place to Hide. I know for some people are going to say, well, why didn't you show that before you showed season 1? Because it would kind of spoil it because they took the first pilot, broke it up into 5 pieces in order to make the first 5 episodes. And I didn't want to kind of ruin them. So I thought maybe it'd be best that we went in and watched the whole season, and then we'll go back and watch the pilot next week, which will.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be 2 weeks till we get to the color one. And
Yes,
I have to correct. I did like The Space Trader, and I did like All That Glitters. I give both of those fairly okay scores. So I don't know which one he did that wasn't good yet.
Well, I was probably thinking of The Space Trader because I mean, it wasn't terrible. It's just I didn't find it as good as a lot of the other episodes in season 1. So I kind of gave it a lower rating because of that.
Well, it did have the guy
All
you
the
like
glitters.
from.
All the glitters was good though.
It did have the guy you like, the one from Golden Voyage of Sinbad.
Golden Voyage.
Seventh Voyage, one of those. I don't know. I
Seventh
like it.
Voyage. Oh, the direct. You mean the director, Nathan Juran or whatever, right?
No, the guy who played the space trader, the bad guy. You remember he plays the evil magician.
Oh
whatever,
yeah,
and
Thorin Thatcher. Yeah.
yeah, that was that one, right?
That's the guy. Yeah, no, I enjoyed that part. But I mean, I'm not saying Barney's a terrible writer. I mean, I think he's much better than Peter Packer overall. So, yeah.
Oh,
This
yeah,
was a
definitely.
this is a real good one. This must be one of the best ones he ever wrote. This one.
Yes.
Okay, well, from the assessment here in the book, this was Barney Slater's 9th Lost in Space writing assignment, which included standout episodes such as Wish Upon a Star and the two-part The Keeper. On March 31st, during the episode's first day of filming, Sam Taylor Jr. of CBS Program Practices in Hollywood wrote, as discussed with Mr. Wilson, throughout the episode, we do not, and I was thinking about this as I was watching this, I know the network had to be heavily influenced with their hands in this because this was kind of a darker turn, I thought, in the episode compared to a lot of the other ones. Because remember, this is supposed to be family oriented, and the way John Robinson treats the family, it was borderline of sadistic. And I knew there was a lot that was probably darker in the script that the censors probably made them remove because it did. Go ahead, Jill.
Even with their hands tied in that way, it still came across as horrific. So it was really well done.
Yes, they were like Star Trek. They were able to dance around and get around the critics. Thank goodness. As from Sam Taylor of Program Practices. Throughout the episode, we would not wish John, possessed by an alien spirit, to evidence extreme ferocity or malice toward his family and friends. With such attitude displayed, the effect on younger members of the audience might be a disturbing one. Specifically, we would ask for directorial care in the following sequences. Scene 51, when John threatens to destroy Smith. Scene 69, when John discovers Will has been following him. Scene 77 through 81, when John threatens Maureen, Judy, and Dawn, and then fights with Dawn. And finally, in scene 96, 98, when John takes Will to the edge of the cliff. You have told us that during this latter sequence, the alien's voice will emanate from John rather than John speaking. Taylor wrote again on April 4th, saying, pages 61, 61A, and 62, as you have changed the point at which you will conclude Act 4, we will reiterate our request in connection with the voices and actions in the final sequence of the act and the sequence which follows. As Robinson, wearing the mask, takes Will to the edge of the abyss, the voice of the alien will be emanating from him. The act should not be concluded with any movement by Robinson through page 61A, and that Robinson's own voice will not be heard until the mask has been removed and he speaks. And that kind of, what's interesting about that is that reminds me of Return of the Jedi. When Darth Vader's dying and he's got the mask on, you can hear Darth Vader, his voice up till when he takes it off. And it's when he tells Will, remove my mask so that I can see you with my own eyes. And then Will takes the mask off. And then when he talks, it's his own voice. So that kind of mirrors that, in my opinion. But predates it, obviously, by many years.
Interesting. Yeah.
Pre-production.
There's a potential influence there.
I think so. It wouldn't be impossible.
Well, we do know that Lucas was a film fan, and he was influenced by other movies, and I guess it's not totally far-fetched that he might have watched Lost in Space, and perhaps. I mean, I really don't know, but possible, I guess.
Well, the connection is John Williams did the music for both. Maybe John Williams said, hey, there's a scene where,
Could be.
Don Richardson returned for his 4th assignment on Lost in Space, making amends for his directing by the numbers effort during the Lost Civilization, which apparently we still haven't gotten over. I'd say that's probably one of the worst ones in season 1. What do you guys think? When the girl that needed to be kissed and woken up?
Oh, that was
absolutely
bad. Yeah.
That was like skeleton of an episode
Yeah.
that
No, the
didn't
Alabama
cast.
one was worse than that. The Alabama.
Which one?
The ones with the Alabamans.
Oh, the
in
space croppers. The space croppers.
I kind of liked that one. I used to hate it, but I kind of enjoyed it this time. A different perspective
No,
when
what
you get
I didn't.
older, I guess.
I agree with Gorilla that I don't like that episode, but I disagree that it's worse than the
Lost Civilization.
Lost Civilization, because at least the space croppers kind of had a full story. You knew what was happening and everything. And there were more plot holes in the Civilization one.
Right. Plot holes
Yeah,
and
I
loose
agree.
ends that they never, right. They just mention things and never mention again.
Well, what saved the space croppers for me was it just made me laugh. Like I was laughing and laughing and laughing because it was so ridiculous. A lot of the scenes and the dialogue, right? And I still look back and I think about the way Dr. Smith was, literally kissing up to the lady, trying to
Isabella.
win her over, and I thought that was some of the funniest stuff that that Smith, did in season 1. It was hilarious.
And speaking of funniest stuff, it looks like we have Spock's brain coming out tomorrow.
Oh, no.
Yes, I can't wait. Yeah, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to start working on that, and we're gonna have such a blast tomorrow, I think.
And I have a doctor's appointment, but I'm hoping to at least be in the ship. My appointment's at like 9 o'clock, and I get out at 10, and it's like a half-hour drive home. So what that basically means is I'll probably be getting out of the doctor as your stream's starting. I don't know if it's starting at noon or 1 or whatever time, but
Should
for
be
my
starting
time,
at
I'll get
noon.
at noon. For my time, I'll get out of the doctor's office right about 10, and it's about a 30-minute drive home. So if I miss part of your stream, I'll be in the chat at first, and then I'll join the panel once I get to my house.
Okay, that sounds perfect. And you shouldn't miss too much, because at first I take a little time to set up.
Now you're like right now it's 8:42 for you. You're an hour ahead of me, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
then
6:42 here. So,
okay, then if you start at noon, that should be 11 for me. I should theoretically be home by then.
Great.
Okay.
Oh, Scurvy here says it's okay for Dr. Smith to worry about himself most, because what would the rest of them do without him?
I know, right? Exactly. Well, it's funny because the way he was trying to BS Professor Robinson about not dropping the laser behind, and I keep names mixed up, but Professor Robinson tells him, "Yeah, about your unbridled bravery be seen in the past." I can believe that. I thought that was funny. And that's another line you could tell was probably written by Jonathan Harris.
yeah, he was
And-
pretty
Yeah.
good at writing dialogue.
And that dialogue, you normally get that kind of thing from Don, and
Yes.
to hear it from John is pretty cool. To finally see
Yes.
him not be too overly nice to him for no reason.
I thought it was funny as well. Yes, it was nice. And you're right. That's something that Don would usually, it would be a quip coming from him. Gregory Morton provided the voice of Quanto of Quasti. He was an actor with nearly 100 known screen credits in films and television from the early 1950s through the mid-1970s. He would also provide the voice of Judge Eco of the Tribunal Space Court in the second season entry, The Prisoners of Space. Irwin Allen would cast Morton in End of the World, an episode of The Time Tunnel, where he is seen as an astronomer. What is that, Pooch? I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I know we have people waiting. I can cover more from the book as we go through.
Nice still there, Jill, by the way. That's a classic.
Yeah.
That captures Smith's personality 100% accurately.
Smith
The
has
face
a
of a
lot of
coward. The face of a
good.
coward.
This is a great episode for John, but Smith still captures some of the scenes here.
He does, but it centers around John, which is nice for a change.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And Smith
So
wants to
here
go
we
lay
have-
down as everybody else goes get some shovels.
Right, that's what's funny. But of course, we get the music. I always highly recommend the music for this series, everybody, if you're listening. And we get the alert theme, alert, 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 as Dr. Smith runs into the compound and tells everybody, and he's panicking, and he explains what's going on. And then John says that they're going to go retrieve Professor Robinson. Dr. Smith tries to make an excuse that his delicate back, and he wants to lay down. And Don doesn't know and tells him to grab a shovel, and he's going to go with them. And while we have that down below here, we cut back to Professor Robinson, who is trying to escape this area where he's at. I know we couldn't catch it in the slides, but the door closed behind him, or before he could escape. And he's using a sword to try to pry it open. When we get a voiceover of an ominous alien being, basically telling him that you're very strong, but there's no way you'll open that door. But not in those words, of course. But even the strength of you can't open it. So we get a little bit set dressing here.
And Gregory Morton is doing the voiceover. So I was wondering who that was because he wasn't in the. They didn't put his name in the credits.
Correct. And I thought it was Malachi Throne at first. He does a lot of voiceovers. But no, you're right. It was Gregory Morton. And here's where he milks the set a little bit. And he's looking behind these curtains to see what's going on, and there's a statue. And he's
really
wondering,
like
the voice. Yeah, that's great. The voice continues talking to him, and he's looking to try to figure out where it's emanating from. So that's why he opens the curtain, the statue falls. And then, right. Here's where we get a quick scene of an enormously giant lizard. And Professor Robinson is on the defense, and he grabs a spear. Fortunately, the creature just goes away. It was just there for exposition, and we don't see it again.
No, Dr. Smith was lying when he said the lizard was huge. That came out at him.
Well, I don't think Dr. Smith made it down that far, down to that lower level.
I don't know. He said that's the whole reason he dropped the thing. The thing was because of a giant lizard. He said it was huge.
Right, he did, but remember Will Smith said it was small. Or, I'm sorry, Will Smith. Will Robinson said it was small. So I tend to believe Will over Dr. Smith.
Yeah, I do too. I didn't make that connection, Gorilla, that they could be the same lizard. If they were, that would be interesting. But that would mean that Will was lying.
That would
or
be
Will
strange.
just didn't think it was big.
That would be strange if Will was lying. That would be very unusual.
And that Will was the one that ran away first?
That would be very strange, yeah. Yeah, I think it probably was a different lizard, I'm guessing.
So now we get our reveal. Professor Robinson opens the sarcophagus, I guess it is, without lack of a better word. And that's when we get this reveal here. There seems to be a mummy-type creature or being inside with this metallic mask. I'm guessing silver-colored. It looks a little light-colored to be gold. It's hard to tell, of course, because this is black and white. And the voiceover continues, basically explaining to Professor Robinson who it is. Apparently, it's a very old and ancient being. I like the idea, too, that if you notice, even with Star Trek, and this is back in the 60s, we are getting episodes dealing with possession by evil demons, and I think that's good. And for some, I thought this was odd. Maybe the alien thought Professor Robinson was tired, but he zaps Professor Robinson, which knocks him out. That's why he was laying on the steps like we just saw. There's like a flash of light, a sound effect. Professor Robinson falls to the steps. And then he immediately gets up and says, well, I'm going back to Jupiter 2 now. So I guess it was long enough for the alien to take over him, but they kind of showed it off camera. Go ahead, Gorilla.
Hey, welcome to the Evolution 78.
Hello there.
My favorite dinosaur. Do the evolution. 78.
Do the locomotion.
Yeah,
how are we doing
on the dinosaur?
That's right. How are we doing on the chat, Gorilla?
Just a few here. Scurvy here says the puppy is worried about Dr. Smith. Do the Evolution says, I dislike the scheming Dr. Smith. Looks like a rat. They says, hi, Jill. Nice to see you again.
Pretty much.
And Scurvy here says, Devo, hey. DJ, welcome DJ Play Nice.
Hi, DJ.
Hey, DJ, good to see you.
It's Evolution Bab. Wait, wrong chat. And it says hi to Scurvy and Scur. All right, so we're all caught up.
Very cool. Good to see you all. Thank you, Gorilla. So, basically, off camera, we have the professor who has been laying on these steps. And then he wakes up and says that he needs to return to the Jupiter too, and acting as if nothing happened. And then, but I know at least us as an audience, we come to the conclusion that he's not all that he usually is. That there's something else going on here. He's not exactly acting like his normal self.
Well, he says one sentence that makes him sound normal, and then the immediate next one is what.
Well, the problem with all these science fiction things is that nobody picks up and go, hey, there's something wrong here when someone's not acting like themselves. They'll go, oh, maybe there's something, maybe it's a stress, or maybe it's something in their head, when they're clearly not themselves.
No, but somebody being possessed isn't something you're going to immediately pick up on every day because you're not expecting it, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right. If somebody, think about it in real life, somebody you knew that you see every day was suddenly acting strange, you wouldn't immediately say, oh my God, are you possessed by a demon? You know what I mean? That would be the last thing on your mind. You would be saying exactly like everybody else.
Hey, I've seen too much TNG not to question whether or not they got taken over by an alien.
It's probably more likely they forgot to take their medication that day.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd be more surprised if they were taken over by somebody with testosterone.
Oh, God.
So here we have the next day. Obviously, Professor Robinson makes it back to the Jupiter too. Next day, they're eating breakfast, and the robot comes up to Dr. Smith is tending to the garden, and the robot comes up to him and asks him why isn't he joining the family with dinner. And he's basically trying to keep his distance from Professor Robinson. He figures that he's probably upset for being abandoned day before in the cave. And as him and the robot are talking, Will comes up and tells him that Professor Robinson wants to speak to him now.
Uh-oh.
Just like a child, right? It's like, your dad wants to talk to you now.
I remember that in the days when Marissa was still living here. We gotta talk now.
It's like, oh no, that's the last thing you want to hear. So Dr. Smith has a seat at the table, and he starts grabbing a plate. And I have a question about this, you guys, too. He starts grabbing a plate, and then Professor Robinson slams his hand down the table and says they're not going to eat all day. And then he's very upset, and you can see by the shocked look on Marine's face. And he says Dr. Smith is not going to work until tomorrow. So
and it's not even just how he responds to Smith either. He even talks back to Marine in a way that he never does.
Exactly, which is why she's got that look on her face. Which I was going to ask you, because this is what we talked about in the past. At least not with Marine, but with Dr. Smith. We talked about it with all the mistakes and everything he's done to foil their plans. We've always talked about and I've said it. I would punish him, not let him eat until because like when he's taken the water, used up the water supply and air conditioning and everything else that he's always done. We've talked about punishing him by making him go without food. So this is the first episode where they actually deal with that issue, where Professor Robinson actually does threaten him with that.
Yeah. No, I would have gone a little bit harsher on the punishment, but it's not allowed because of the censors.
That's what I was going to say. Go ahead. Go ahead, PV.
I actually do think, though, denying Smith any food for 24 hours would be a terrible punishment for Dr. Smith, because we all know how much he loves to eat, right? So.
Oh, yeah, like me, it would be nothing. I often go days without it, obviously, as you guys know. But yeah, for Smith, no, he couldn't handle it. But this is how early in the episode, the last time I saw this episode, as a heads up, was obviously 20 years ago at least. And I didn't really think about it completely until then. And now by learning more, by reading this book as we've been covering season 1. And with the censors and with what they were and were not allowed to get away with back then, this is when the first red alarms start going off. That I'm thinking, I think this is where the censors are going to start coming in and really keeping a close eye on this episode, because they're not going to let him abuse the family, even be mean around the family. And I thought about there's no way he's going to deprive the family of food. He threatened it with Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith isn't exactly in the family. But then even then, when Maureen calls him on it, he says, "You're right, I really didn't mean that." So that it's like they imply, but then they back off.
Yeah, but even just the threat brings across what the changes are in his personality effectively. Even if they couldn't do more, I enjoy this more serious kind of take that this episode turns.
Well, there's also the thing too that the alien entity possessing him doesn't want to maybe totally give its hand away, and be too obvious, right? So it maybe realizes it went a little bit over the line here, dealing with Smith, and then it kind of pulls it back, and it doesn't want to like make the family get, suspicious.
That's possible, but one of the things that it says is that over time, I'm going to take over your body completely. So right now, John is still somewhat in control, but he's just like he's just being a little bit aggressive.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just gets worse.
It is nice to see, nice to see him finally getting a chance to do a bit of acting too, instead of being in the background in so many episodes. But
I thought so as well. Yes,
because he is a great actor when he gets
right, and we've
the
had
script,
a lot.
right?
Yeah, and we've had a lot of episodes this season that were more on the lighter comedic tone. So it's nice they balance it out with something a little darker this time. And serious, because some of the episodes were getting a little juvenile, and as you guys know. But so it's good that they balanced out a little bit here.
Yeah, I'd say I hope to see more episodes like this, but you guys have told me that that's not going to happen.
Oh, Jill. We said season 2 kind of has the Batman effect and gets a little silly at times. Season 3, however, bounces back quite nicely, and there's one episode in particular that is probably my favorite episode of the entire series in season 3 that is very dark. It's actually darker than this one, and it's really great.
Oh, great. Well,
if you thought this was great,
I'll look forward
wait
to
till you
that.
see that one. Unfortunately, it'll take us 2 years to get there, but oh well.
I don't know. I thought season 2 had some good episodes.
Well, yeah,
I'm about to find out.
I'm overgeneralizing. I but I think of the 3 seasons, season 2 is my least favorite because I like season 1 a lot, and I really like a lot of season 3 as well. So.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's like season 3 of Star Trek where they're not all bad, but just because of the few ones that are bad, it's notorious.
I think you meant season 2 or season 3? Because season 3 actually does bounce back. Because from what I've read, when Alan was concerned about the ratings starting to drop in the second season, so he kind of wanted to make the show more serious again in season 3, like it had been in a lot of season 1. So. It was a nice bounce back, I thought. I really like season 3.
Well, this here is kind of like what I was talking about before. We're on the breakfast table. John at the breakfast table basically explained that they're going to be leaving this planet, which obviously surprises everybody. And Don tells them we don't have the fuel. And Professor Robinson tells him that I know how to build a machine that will create the fuel. Or they show them later on digging and mining. So I'm guessing he's going to build a machine that is going to show them how to produce the fuel from the ground. And of course, everyone's surprised. He says they're going to leave in 2 days. But what he essentially says to the family is, and this is what, like I said, I think they were really pushing the censors, is what I think he was trying to imply is no eat, no rest, no sleep until we get this done, until we get this thing built and we're off this planet. Because the demon doesn't, or whatever the evil spirit or being is, doesn't need to sleep. And then what we do is we cut out immediately from that, obviously he gets up from the table, goes into the Jupiter 2, leaving everybody in silence and in shock. And then what we do is we cut from there to Professor Robinson inside his cabin, just chilling and doing nothing. And I thought that was kind of odd. It's like the sister stepped in and said, "Wait a minute, hold on, dial it back," because you think they would have cut to showing like a montage of everybody working constantly and sweating and complaining. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of just say he's become a tyrant, but without overtly showing too much of it. Too much of him actually being
Yes.
a driver. A labor
Right,
driver.
because that's what you think is going to happen. That's what he implies around the breakfast table. But they do cut and show him just reading books, chilling and relaxing inside of his quarters, and I thought that was odd. So
I haven't quite gotten there yet in my slides to this portion that you're talking about. However, I wanted to mention a scene that we did just pass up, which was
okay,
John talking to Will, and he's
yes, thank
expressing
you.
to him that he's kind of guilty about him not having a normal childhood, because right now the alien is taking over his mind and he's still fighting it. He's still trying to push it away, and so he is still mostly John. And Will tries to say that he's happier this way than a normal child would be with
Right,
their regular.
that's right. That's where Professor Robinson said that he wishes that he would have left Will and the girls on Earth.
Yeah, and I think that's really great that we don't get to see this side of him where he talks about how he actually feels about what he's done to his family and in terms of being explorers and everything. And we don't get to see that kind of insecurity from him ever, and I enjoyed that. And
You're right. It was a nice touch.
just showing him being a good father.
It's almost like I'm glad they put that in because that's reminding us, the audience, that he's a good man. Remember, what's coming up is not him. So it's good they had that balance there to remind us that Professor Robinson is a nice guy. So what we're in store for is not him and not the way he normally is.
But
Hush up, Pooch. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, the way that he gets the plans from the alien to synthesize deuterium, I think that's monumental for the series, because now they don't have to worry about fuel anymore. If they have this machine that can totally just make it for them.
Right, which is great because for any of those who have not been watching the show or who are barely remember it from years ago, a lot of people were always confused about why the whole season took place on the planet. Why didn't they leave sooner? It's like Gilligan's Island. Why didn't they fix that boat? So basically, what happens here, the plot is all it took was for Professor Robinson to get possessed by a superior being with a superior intellect who knows how to create fuel for the ship. Boom, that solves a big plot hole, seals up a lot of loose ends, and now they're able to leave within just 2 or 3 days, so that we'll be ready for season 2 in full color.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, actually, because I wonder if Erwin Allen was starting to think by the end of season 1 if maybe they should get the ship back into space and go to a few different worlds instead of just being, on one place in one world the whole season.
Yeah, that was a part of the episode that I was so excited about at the beginning. I was like, all right, they're going to work towards getting this ship going. And then week after week, we're just meeting all these cool looking monsters and stuff, but we're not really moving forward with the mission. And so it's really great that they finally got there here at the end.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's much more fun when they get into space, and that's my one criticism of season 1 would be that it's too stationary, set on one
Right,
planet.
but it was, but in their defense, I'd have to say, at least the reason why he says that they haven't left is not only fuel but repairs. So the ship is still damaged from the crash landing.
Yes, that is true too. But the alien takes care of that too.
As well, right? We don't see it; it all happens off camera. But yeah, but we the closest we get when you think about it is this episode is more, it focuses more on the possession of John Robinson. It doesn't focus on them doing the hard work actually repairing the ship. We don't get any implication of that until the end of the episode when we get the cliffhanger for next week.
Yeah, we don't
So if there's any repairs that are done, that's what I'm saying is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we don't get to see
ahead,
the
Jill.
repairs, but the alien says that it's going to be so easy for him to do it.
Oh, looks like we got an audience. Gorilla, how are we doing on the chat?
I was trying to get in there, but I couldn't. But Do the Evolution says, great to be here in this chat. He says, awesome podcast member, so thank you.
You're awesome.
Good to see you. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
It says, welcome, Evo DJ. It's good to have company in the chat. And welcome, Jim. He says, hello.
Oh, hi, Jim.
Hey, Jim, hope you're doing well.
And
Hello,
here's the
Jim.
Sorry Remaster trailer video, which was pretty cool. And is PvP snoring? No, that's Gorilla.
Gorilla's had a long day.
Yeah, Scurvy here says, Jim, that's Pop's dog, I think. He goes, oh, okay, Scurvy. And we're all caught up.
Wow, Gorilla, you're doing really great considering you're asleep. I had no idea.
Right? Talking in your sleep. Not bad.
I'm
Yeah, that's
sleeping in
pretty
the
good.
chat.
Impressive.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, sleeping and talking, you can multitask.
Hey, apparently the X has a video of me talking about sleep. I still think she fudged it.
But to your point that you keep saying, Pop, a lot of the elements of the episode they don't show. They just tell you that they happen. Like how apparently at one point John got so angry with Smith it almost looked like he was going to hit him.
Right.
And
I
so
mean,
we
that's
get to
pretty
see
harsh.
that.
Right. And that's pretty, you can see that Smith is really taking that seriously. That's not something Professor and as you said earlier, that's something we can imagine Don saying, but not Professor Robinson. So that's why it really throws her. That's what I like about this is that we're all surprised that this is much darker than he's ever acted. And especially because they all know him so well. Even Don said he's known him for years.
Yeah, in spite of the interference from this network sensors, they still managed to keep a lot of dark stuff in this episode, which thank goodness for that, because that's what makes it good, right?
And is it just me? There's still no kissing, but Maureen and John hug more in this episode than I've seen in other episodes.
Yes, they do. I agree with it. And I think it's to balance it out to remind us, the audience, that John's still in there somewhere. But he's not completely lost. At least in my opinion. Okay, let's see. I want to make sure that I cover too that.
And since when is Dr. Smith a psychologist?
Since about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, he's the last one I would be that I would allow trying to get into my head. This episode ran long, and there were a few significant cuts of dialogue made during the editing phase. Act 1 of the episode opens with Will replacing the robot's power pack and telling him, "This is the second time this week I've recharged your power pack. You're sure using up a lot of energy." The robot says, "It's Dr. Smith's fault. He is constantly talking to me." Judy, having heard this while exiting the Jupiter to Don, tells the robot, "Well, you don't have to reply." Don says, "Judy's right. All you have to do is tune him out by shutting off your audio unit." The lines that were to follow and were filmed but left out of the episode continued with the robot saying, "I did. Dr. Smith discovered my deception." Judy asked, "What did he do?" And the robot answered, "He made me open my audio unit. I had to listen to him for a full day." Don quipped, "I can think of no greater torture." The robot bemoaned, a very trying experience. My computers are still all shook up." Another cut removed a portion of the scene.
That's cute.
I know. It would have been nice if it had been in there.
I wonder if those scenes still exist, Pop. Like, did they put anything like on the
Yes.
Blu-ray when they put it out? Did they have
lots of extra? Yes, a lot of extra scenes. A few, very few bloopers, and mostly behind the scenes special effects. How they did special effects. But something like this, after all this time, would probably not exist anymore.
Probably, yeah.
Another cut removed a portion of the scene in which John returns to the Jupiter 2 after being sealed in the cave. As aired, no one in the family nor Don wonder how John could have gotten out of the cave when several feet of rock and dirt still blocked the entrance. All we saw was Maureen rush to her husband, embrace him, and then ask John, "Are you all right?" The dialogue that followed, but was cut from the episode, went like this: Robinson attempting at likeness. Remind me to get trapped in a cave more often. The homecoming is well worth the trouble. Judy, are you sure you're all right? Robinson, fine, except for a slight headache. Don, you had us pretty worried there. How'd you ever get out? Robinson, walked. The entrance was open. Don, puzzled. But it was blocked with 10 feet of rock. Robinson, the last thing I remember was the cave in and then falling. A stone must have struck me in the head. Don, that would account for the headache, but not the escape. Maureen, who cares how he got out? He's back, and that's all I care about. Don nods. Sure, I was just curious, that's all. Maureen, well, you puzzle it out tomorrow. Right now, my husband needs some rest. Robinson, I'm a little beat. Rubs the back of his head. I really must have taken a crack on the head. And I had the strangest nightmare while I was unconscious. Don, you'll feel fine in the morning. Robinson's, sure I will. Good night, Don. Don, sleep well. Warning, do not try this at home. If you take a crack on the head by a stone and feel beat after being unconscious, do not go to sleep. Go to a doctor.
Yeah,
It
go to
actually
the
has a
hospital.
disclaimer in the book.
Yeah, go right to the emergency ward is what I would say.
Yeah, a concussion is nothing to mess around with.
Yeah,
Were they not
get an
were
X-ray.
they not required to have disclaimers like that on TV? Like if they were to
No.
show something like that?
No.
Because nowadays
Another scene
everything
left
has.
on the, yes, I agree. Another scene left on the cutting room floor had Maureen exit John's cabin. Will greets her asking, Mom, how is he? Maureen says, I gave him a sedative. Your father will be fine. He just needs rest. Will asks, do you think it'll be all right if I keep him company for a while? Maureen hesitates, but seeing the expectancy in Will's face, relents. This leads to the scene in which Will enters John's cabin and then sits with his father while he falls asleep.
That explains why he just passes out randomly during the scene.
Right. And it says CBS was happy to see the scene, and the reference to Maureen giving John a sedative remain on the editing room floor. The biggest cut was an entire. Go ahead.
It's a shame that they cut these scenes because the dialogue in these scenes is great. I would have loved to have seen these scenes.
Right, but like I said
It
earlier,
explains
the episode ran.
too.
The episode ran long, so that's why they had to cut some of these scenes out.
It's a
Unfortunately,
shame. It's a shame. Would have
the
made the
biggest
episode
cut.
better. Oh, sorry, Pop.
Okay.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. What I had next. What I have next is for upcoming scenes, so we're ready to continue.
And even though it would have made more sense if I knew he had a sedative, why he just fell asleep randomly, I thought it was just because the alien influence was so taking a toll on him, having to fight it off. So it actually kind of worked that they didn't put it in.
You're right, that doesn't make sense.
It didn't bother me because I could fall asleep anywhere.
Especially with your kid talking to you.
Your kid's having a heartwarming, life-changing message
I
with
know.
you saying they're happy with their life, and you're just gonna fall asleep.
Start snoring.
Hey, I slept for 4 hours with the kids screaming there one time, so
Oh,
That sounds like dad ears.
hey, every parent's done that. Jill can probably vouch for me. They slept with the kid crying one time.
Oh boy.
I guess you can get immune to it after a point.
Yeah, I guess you get used to it.
Well,
There's a kid down the hall in the next apartment. It sounds like a little kid because it's constantly screaming. Well, not constant, but every week I hear at least a day or two it'll be screaming its head off, and I don't know if the kid's teething or something, but it's really it's I don't know how parents can put up with it when the kid's just going, going crazy like that. It's like, on and on. It's like, oh man.
Kids aren't going to make noise as long as they're safe and they're fed and,
Oh,
it's time to sleep. Then
no, it seems fine because I see the parent taking it out in the stroller every once in a while, and the kid's perfectly silent then. So it's kind of like, go figure. I don't know, kind of go figure, but I don't know.
Well, I guess that Randy works.
Mine was just the kid's been it been like the 5th night in a row that I've been up and all that. And welcome, Basil. Welcome.
Hey,
Hello, Basil. Good to see you. Glad you could join us.
hello, Basil Battle Dragon.
No, it's like the 5th day in a row. I hardly got any sleep, because I worked the night shift there and stuff, and then Marissa worked the day shift, and I just had so we didn't have daycare at the time, so
okay.
So those situations.
Yeah, it's not good when you gotta miss sleep like that. It really takes a toll after a while.
So
Yeah,
here's this is the scene where Dr. Smith tries to sit down and talk to John Robinson to figure out what's going on, trying to be somewhat of a psychologist. But that's when whatever being is possessing John Robinson reveals himself and lets him know that, explains to Dr. Smith that he can destroy him, which puts Dr. Smith, as you can see here, in abject terror. But he tells him not to tell anybody. So, of course, out of fear, Dr. Smith does keep his word.
Wait a minute. He keeps his word? The very next second,
the robot's the one that reveals what's going on. Right? He's telling the robot, but not the humans, I guess you could say.
No, the robot, I thought, figured it out.
The robot, but that's what I was going to say. Dr. Smith said, I'm not going to have any part of it. And the robot revealed it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the robot figured it out because he knew something was wrong with John.
I'm just surprised they left this dialogue in the episode. This is pretty strong dialogue for Lost in Space.
Right, but it does show censorship because they weren't allowed to use the word kill. So he doesn't say I would be forced to kill you. They did change it to destroy.
But yeah, destroy is still pretty much the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. The robot does figure it out for himself, but it feels like Smith was just telling him everything because he says. And then if I tell the others, the alien will destroy me.
Right.
So my imagination filled in the blanks there, I think.
That's quite all right. And here's the scene we're talking about. Dr. Smith doesn't know what to do. He's basically wringing his hands, knowing they're all in trouble, but he's afraid to reveal it because he promised the alien being he wouldn't tell anybody. And this is what Jill's talking about. So it sounds like he's telling the robot what's going on, which in a way he's kind of hinting. He's at least letting the robot know that he's got a secret. But what we don't get is the robot saying, "What is it? What's the problem?" Asking him questions. So I guess when they wrote the script, put it together, they decided, well, let's have the robot figure it out. Now the robot didn't say how he figures it out. I don't think, when I remember, I don't think he said my sensors indicate that there's a dimensional being in possession of his body or anything like that. He just says that he's in possession. Here it is. He is possessed. And this would be the first that Don and Will have heard about it. But of course, back then they didn't know about a exorcist or any of that kind of stuff. So they realize that there's not much they can do. And the robot informs them that right now it's not in full control, but it's taken over more and more control. And they're running out of time. And soon it will be in complete control.
It's interesting. We get another ability of the robot right in the last episode of the season here, because he never had any kind of ability, like, I don't know, to read minds or have sense that kind of possession thing. Like, it was something totally new, which was nice because the robot does develop as the series progresses.
Right, that's what I was saying. I was thinking, because they didn't want to show. They could have easily written in the script where Dr. Smith tells the robot, reveals to him the secret of what's going on with the possession, but informs the robot not to tell anybody. They could have had that where he told the robot and said, but don't tell the family. But they didn't. So I guess, but I will admit, it's kind of a leap. I guess I don't know, with for lack of a better word, that the robot can figure out about the possessed, about the being that's inside of him, at least without, like I said, a description from the robot of how he was able to detect it.
Yeah, well, it's
But,
definitely a new ability for sure. Yeah.
That's
right.
why I
So
jumped to the conclusion that Smith told him because there was no other logical connection as to how the robot could know it, other than knowing for sure that John is completely different. There is something wrong, but what it is, there's no way for him to have known. It's a alien possession
Yeah, it does
without some
seem like
kind of
a bit of
evidence.
yeah, it does seem like a bit of an assumption. Come to think of it, Jill. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
yeah,
probably right.
kind of a
that's
stretch.
what I did.
Yep.
Well, it is kind of a stretch. Like I said, how would the robot detect it without an explanation?
Mm, true. True. True.
So now we have pretty much the alien being is watching them from inside the Jupiter 2 and realizes that they know what's going on. The robot is informed. They even said, the voice even said the mechanical man has told him. See, so now think about it. If the voiceover would have said Dr. Smith told them that you were in possession, remember he promised to destroy Dr. Smith if Dr. Smith spoke. So that's probably right here is the reason why they had to have the robot reveal the information. Otherwise, Dr. Smith would be in immediate danger, and us as the audience would be expecting John to kill Dr. Smith next, right?
Yes.
For revealing, but he knows he
Yeah.
can't take it out on a robot. What's he going to do, right? And besides, now the whole family knows.
So now the whole
So,
family must be removed.
right now, the whole family must be removed, and the big question mark is how are they going to do that and still get through the sensors?
Well, by using the word remove instead of kill.
Kill, right?
We'll catch up on
Let's
chat.
kill the family one by one. Yeah, thank you, Grill. I'm going to grab
I love that.
I'm
I
gonna
love
grab
that
you.
because it takes us back to the pilot, to this how sinister Dr. Smith was in the very first episode. And now that's how this alien is. It's kind of bringing
Oh.
that same sort of evil that we had at the very beginning and wrapping it back around to the end of the season, which is a great full circle for the whole season.
Yeah, that's a good comment, Jill. I didn't think of that when I was watching this
It's
last
true.
night.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I agree. And
Cool.
yes, and thank you, Gorilla. Go for it.
Yeah, Scurvy says snore gorilla, and Basil says, "Hey hail, great pop culture curator." Says, "Hi gang, how's everybody doing tonight?"
No, we're having
Better and
fun.
better.
Having fun watching a great episode. Here.
Hey, and Basil says, "Indeed, listening to the robot can be torture."
It was
Hey.
Smith.
Can a robot be trusted to keep a secret? And Jill?
Here we go.
Matt G, hello. Hello.
Hey, Matt G.
Hi, Madge.
Taylor Swift greater than Disney, Star Wars, and MCU.
All right, that's all the chats. Poppy, there?
Great to see ya. Great to see all
So
you guys tonight.
I'm here. What was that? I missed it. What was that?
I said all the chats are caught up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry about that. I had to grab a soda real quick. Okay, so this is where, as we Apper mentioned, the being kills Professor. Then, since everybody knows about it, I guess we're going to have to get rid of them. So that leads us to the audience wondering how exactly is he going to do it, and how much time are they going to spend on him doing it? And I guess none. But that's okay. Like I said, that fine line with that balance with the sensors, there wasn't much they could do. And something that I noticed here that I don't think we're going to be able to get it here without showing a video clip. By the way, I'm not going to be able to have the trailer for next week's episode like I normally do.
Oh gosh.
The program that I use to get my clips, I've always used the free demo up to this point, and now they had an upgrade. They had an upgrade, but an update. And unfortunately, I updated it, which it forces you to. And now you have to pay just to get any clips. There's nothing free. So I've got to find another program that I can get video clips.
Gee, that's kind of
But
crummy. They did that.
yeah, it is. I've been using it the whole season, but
It's like,
oh
man,
well.
greedy people.
I'll figure out something because I want to be able to show obviously the trailers for season 2. But what I wanted to point out is the scene where just before this, where Will is hiding amongst the rocks at nighttime, and Professor Robinson approaches, and then he thinks that he sees something, and he looks around, but Will hides behind the rocks. And I wasn't able to get the video clip. I wish I could have. But this is one of the rarest times in the series that the actor, this being Professor Robinson, is standing so close to the background you can see his shadow on it. Because normally what I'm talking about is that big, huge painting, the diorama that surrounds the back of the set, so that it looks like there's mountains and desert in the distance. But when it shows Professor Robinson walk up into the camp, you can clearly see that he's only standing a foot or two in front of that, and he casts a shadow on it. They're usually very careful about not exposing that fact. And I thought it was interesting because I'd never caught it before until when I watched this last night. Okay. So anyway, but now we have Professor Robinson as possessed by Quanto. I can't remember the name of the demon now.
Oh,
and
Canto.
Canto, thank you. From Quanti.
No. He had a different name when they first said it.
Oh, it changed?
Yes, it changed. Because I was gonna make the comment there when it first beat him. It was like, oh, show, like they're sucking. And the reason they got the name was because they came up with the name as they're sucking up the smoke from the bong. That's the sound the bong made.
Well, there goes the PG-13 rating.
I'm serious. I was thinking about that the whole time after I listened to it. I was trying to figure out how to incorporate that joke into the stream.
Well, you did, and we thank you for it, Gorilla.
By chance, I wish I had a video clip of that. Do you by chance remember which scene that was?
Sorry. Oh, gosh, sorry.
I can really. When we first, I think when we first.
When he revealed himself, I thought he first said I'm talking about the demon, or whatever. Didn't it first reveal itself to Dr. Smith when it said its name? Was it to Dr. Smith? Wasn't it inside the quarters?
Yeah.
It says Canto on Wikipedia. Canto is what it's named in Wikipedia.
That's what I thought.
Here. So yeah,
that's what I heard too.
Maybe my headphones just started going out at that moment, and that's what I got. So
maybe you didn't have enough sleep or something, Gorilla.
Yeah, I thought it was Canto from Quanti.
You were hallucinating.
I was thinking that's one thing. Another thing I've got to get credit for. Star Trek comes up with better names for planets. I mean, Quanti. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Way better names for planets and adversaries for sure. Star Trek is really good at that, actually.
Well, right, and it's like Star Trek actually had science consultants, so a lot of the references, like as far as the galaxy, the planets, and all that kind of stuff, was a lot more accurate. As we can see here, there's when it comes to their scientific knowledge with loss of space, seems to be inconsistent based on whoever wrote that week's episode.
Pretty much, yeah, it seems that way. Yeah.
Luckily, this one didn't need too much science to rock.
Yes, true. Here's where we have Professor Robinson is back at the underground, inside the cave. And that's when he sees that Will Robinson followed him in there. And of course, he asks him, what is he doing? And this is another dark scene where we can see Will is actually terrified. And you don't really know what Professor Robinson has in store for him or what he's planning on doing. And this is, like we were talking about earlier, this is where I'm sure the censors had a lot of influence because I don't even think they would show this episode, this content in this order like that today, because this is highly questionable because it's on the borderline of a parent, let's just say, disposing of one of their children. And that is very heavy for not only 1960s, but for Lost in Space.
Yeah, I don't even think Star Trek would have done something that dark, would they? You know.
Well, they
No.
did have a
Imagine
little
trying to do
child.
that. During
Well, they did do something a little bit similar in TNG where they had a little child die in a cave crash, and there's a test Riker to see if this Riker would use his power, but it's that's one of those. Not one of the better Q episodes.
Yeah, TNG did have some darker episodes. I was thinking of TOS actually, though, Grilling. I don't think. I mean, there were some dark episodes of TOS for sure, but I don't remember a parent ever getting rid of their kid like that. So yeah.
Well, in all fairness, TOS didn't have the families on the starship either, so.
That's true, which I kind of like because I always thought. Actually, that's one thing about Next Generation I found a bit weird is you're on a deep, space mission. You're going to be away from Earth for years and years. Often your missions are extremely dangerous. So why would you bring the family members and the kids along for the ride? It's like it seemed a bit strange.
It was kind of a show that, hey, we're in peace now and everybody's fine, but very clearly the entire ship was in danger so much that it didn't make any sense for the kids to be there.
Yeah.
Right. During season one, they should have said, no, this isn't going to work. Let's take them to a starbase. Instead,
Yeah,
what they
that's
did, they were inconsistent. It's like some episodes, they'd forgotten the kids were on the ship altogether. And then you're reminded like 3 episodes later, oh, that's right, there's kids on the ship. But yeah, it seemed inconsistent. I didn't like
You
it.
think they'd have to be doing that saucer separation almost every other
Yes,
episode at
yes.
least to separate the kids from the battle? Of course, they're not going to do that. That's expensive.
There goes the budget. But yeah, I like TOS because it was strict military, military order, right? It made sense for a deep space, ship exploring, the galaxy.
Well, it's not just the military. I know Gene Roddenberry hated the military aspects of it, but it was ludicrous having the families. I didn't like it from the beginning because space is dangerous.
Yes. Gene doesn't hate the military aspect. It's just that Star Trek is his idea of what the military will become. And so he has a different idea of what it should be rather than actually hating it. Because he knows that he modeled it after the Navy. So obviously he doesn't hate military. He just wants to
but it's when they removed him is when they made some of the best Star Trek, like Star Trek 2, Star Trek 6. And some of the things like that. The military aspect, he just tried to dial it down a lot more than what they had it. But that's how we got some of our best episodes.
The thing is, though, Pop, those movies still had the military protocols and the discipline and the rank of command, right? So it was still there.
Well, even from the beginning of the ranks of command and all that kind of stuff, they had lieutenants and all that kind of stuff. So yes.
Well, the thing is too,
but it's not.
Roddenberry's previous series was called The Lieutenant, and it only lasted for one season because I think it was Nichelle Nichols was in an episode, and the network didn't like
Gary
it.
Lockwood.
They didn't like
Gary
it
Lockwood's
because the racial stuff. It was
the ratings. It was ratings. They'll air whatever had good ratings. It just didn't do good in the ratings. It didn't do well. Star Trek was his first successful show.
Good night to DJ Play Nice. He's got to go.
Oh, good night.
Good night, DJ. I'm glad to see you. DJ. Have a great night. I hope to see you on our next stream.
Yeah, I guess it was the ratings. Come to think of it, Pop, you're right.
It's always the ratings.
I do think
Star Trek was Gene Roddenberry's first hit. Just remember that before Star Trek, he just wrote random episodes from other TV shows.
Well, his best stuff before Star Trek was writing for Have Gun and Will Travel.
Westerns.
I think he wrote maybe like 10 or 12 episodes for that, and they were great, like really good.
Well, he wrote for other shows as well. And then the Lieutenant was his first story on his own, and which was not successful.
Yeah, I think it lasted 26 episodes.
This is a fascinating conversation, but I think it'd be a great rumblings conversation.
There's a video you could play right now, Gorilla, but
Oh, which one do you want?
about getting back on track.
Yeah. Oh,
Stay on target. We're too close. Stay on target.
all right.
I do apologize. I do tend to ramble at times. I'm very
All
sorry.
right. No, just let me know. So let's get back on this stuff before I
Yeah,
end up
let's get this
complete
sucker
out.
done, right?
Okay, so
Or
Professor
gorilla becomes a
Robinson.
pumpkin.
Yes, and then I know it's getting late for some of you guys.
Yeah, poor Gorilla.
So here's the point where the being quanti, whatever the name of the being is, informs Will
Careful.
Robinson, right? Whatever it informs Will Robinson that he is now going to take over the father 100% completely. And of course, poor Will Robinson, that's not something he wants to hear because that's his father. And now we cut back to the Jupiter 2 where they're manufacturing fuel. This must be, I'm guessing, the machine that Quanti built, even though we find our the cosmic detector there as usual. That thing gets a lot of mileage in this season, I've noticed.
I love the Cosmic Detector. It's just so I every time I see Cosmic Detector, I gotta laugh. It just seems kind of a little bit silly, but oh well, that's just me.
Right, it serves so many different purposes throughout the season. I give it credit. It's one of the most
Very
popular
versatile.
props. Yes, very versatile.
It's a versatile dial or meter, I should say.
Right. So this is where they are at least showing here. I know we were talking earlier that after Professor Robin or the Quanti, whatever, threatens and tells them that they need to leave and they're going to build a
Canto?
machine. Canto, yes, thank you. I don't know where Canto from Quanti. I keep getting the words mixed up. That's just crazy.
That's okay.
So here we are. They are building this device in order to either convert fuel, make fuel, or extract it from the ground. And that's what Don's working on. And they're talking about where all their problems are in that cave. And they're still trying to figure out and solve their solutions. So they figured the only way by doing that is going back to the cave and try to see what's happening. And I thought this was funny because if you watch this scene closely right here that Jill is showing, is you can see Professor Robinson standing there. And he's got like a baton of some sort of sword in his hands. You could see him before the puff of smoke. So if you cut it quick on the editing, and you can go back and watch this in slow motion, is that it cuts and it shows him standing there, and then you get a poof of smoke, and he's still standing there. And I thought that was kind of funny because it's kind of like a magician's reveal, except he was there before the puff of smoke. But hey, that maybe the demon wanted to put on an entrance, right? I'm surprised everybody didn't applaud. So here's where we're assuming that Professor Robinson is now 100% taken over by the being because he changed his clothes. And I like the fact that even Judy says, "Where did you get those clothes?" So they bring that up. But the clothes may be Conti's. I'm probably not saying that right.
Just be careful how you say that.
Right. The clothes may not be Conti's, but he seems to have his space gauntlets on from earlier in the first season. And we'll see them again in season 2. So, right. So part of the costume is new and part of it's not. So he reveals himself now
I
to
keep
Judy
wanting
and
to
Dawn.
make his name Spanish, like make it Canto.
They should have made it. They should have made his name Zorro because that would have made sense from his previous series.
Yeah, except for the owners of Zorro aren't going to like that.
Oh, that would have been hilarious, though. That would have been hilarious.
They had to pay royalties for that name?
Oh yeah, I'm just making a joke. I didn't actually mean it. That would be silly anyway. But I thought that would be funny actually, because Kanto, Zorro, kind of similar,
And we can always tell when it's the being talking is when you hear the reverberation. You get an echo, and that'll stop when it's Professor Robinson talking. So that'll trope, yes. If you're wondering, yes, it does have that old trope. And so here's where we have the point where he wrestles, and even though he told them that the evil being is in total charge now. We can see here that there's still kind of an inner turmoil and tug of war going on inside because John seems to surface every now and then and remember their names. But then he'll immediately be possessed by Conti again. And of course, here she's talking to him like he's an old man. And you remember Will, Penny, Dr. Smith?
Yeah,
And
there
so
were
we show
moments
him.
when John's back, like here.
Right. So he does remember himself momentarily there as he gives Judy a hug. But then,
exactly.
of course, the being takes over and reminds him, my name is Kanto.
There you go.
And of course, Maureen said, let me take you back to the spaceship. She still doesn't quite believe what's going on, or she hasn't accepted it, or isn't quite aware or grasp. And now he's telling her we can't leave. When I leave the planet, they'll go with me. Of course, first it makes it sound like he's going to kidnap the kids. And then she says, oh, no, you can't take the kids. And he says, no, I'm going to take all of you. I need all of you to run the ship. So it's funny because that's how they get past the censors as well, because he's not going to say, I'm going to leave all you here. I don't need you guys. It's just going to be me, and I'll program the robot, and we'll get to where we need to go, right? That's easily what he could have said.
I'm just trying to remember now. Did Dawn wrestle the sword away from him before this battle began?
I think he knocked it out of his hand.
Yeah, because Dawn's got the sword now, obviously, and I don't know what the heck that other thing is Professor Robinson's fighting with, because that's just a strange looking device.
It's just an object that he picks up. But I want to pick that up. Here's something that I will, and this is going to be abstract, is here we get a trope, and we're going to see this a lot more, by the way, in the upcoming seasons. We get the trope where it's either Dawn or John or both of them are involved, where they've got to say, we got to form a distraction here. And they even parodied this in Galaxy Quest. They also parodied this.
Oh, really?
In the yes. They also parodied this in the 1998 Lost in Space movie. But it's where they're in, whoever the bad guy is, the alien, the monster, whatever, the bad guy of the week. It has them with a sword or some sort of weapon. And then one of the good guys says to the other guy, we've got to create a distraction. And then remember in Galaxy Quest, they said, well, remember that scene we did in that movie that was from this and that? And then the two acted like they were fighting. So that was straight out of Lost in Space. And a little bit of Star Trek. Star Trek kind of used that trope too later on. The old distractions. In fact, we're going to see that next week or tomorrow on Spock's brain. When she has the phaser held up to them, Scotty's going to act like he's fainting momentarily. And of course, and she's anyway, we'll cover that tomorrow when we get to Spock's brain.
I remember that. Scotty's fainting. That was cool. I love that bit.
All right, the old distraction method works every time, doesn't it?
That was great. Scotty was cool in that episode.
So we get I can't wait to talk about it tomorrow. So here's where we have is right. Dawn knocks the weapon out of Professor Robinson's hand. Professor Robinson grabs another object. And now we get a bit of fisticuffs here, a little bit of duel going on between the two. And John knocks Dawn down to the steps, and Dawn was able to grab the shield just in time as whatever this device that Professor Robinson has apparently elicits electricity when he hits with the this.
Yeah, it looks like a coil.
Right, it's a coil, and it kind of reminds me of it's like that last episode where we saw Professor Robinson fight with the other alien being, the episode with Kurt Russell, and they fought those electrical swords, and they would spark whenever they clashed together.
The challenge.
Right, thank you, the challenge.
Yeah.
Which also reminds me of a precursor to lightsabers, the electrical.
Well, I was just thinking lightsabers. Yeah, exactly, Pop.
And so the Kanto knocks the device out of Dawn's hand, and Dawn is knocked to the ground and knocked. What appears to be at first she's knocked out, and you could tell here that when the actor Guy Williams held this device up to the actor Mark Goddard's face, and when he flicked that blade and it popped out, you could tell that was a natural reaction because you could see him pop. You could see his head kind of shake in surprise. Because at first I thought I was thinking, is Dawn passed out? And is he going to act like he's passed out when that blade pops out just an inch away from his face? And it's like, no, he actually shakes his head, and you can tell it surprises him.
I actually think that's a very frightening scene. Like, I'm surprised that scene got past the censors because you got basically like a huge knife right, near Don's face, and that's pretty scary actually for 1960, 5 or 66, whenever this episode aired. Like, that's pretty damn scary.
I thought so as well. Yes.
Yeah.
But think about this. Think about this. If you're the actor, if you're Don Goddard, and you're the actor playing Don on the ground, Mark Goddard, and you're the actor playing Don on the ground, and you know that they're going to have this prop with this blade that pops out and it's going to be an inch away from your face, are you going to be able to act that scene and act like you're asleep? It's like I don't think that.
I wouldn't
Yeah, I
be
don't
too
think that's
happy
something
to do it.
right. So that's why I think that
Depends on
reaction was
who's
actually
holding it.
natural.
Depending on
I'm
who's
really
holding
glad
it.
that made it in there.
Oh, it's great. But damn, if he'd slipped, if he'd slipped, it could have been like a pretty painful experience for Don, right?
Well, yeah, but the
Was it
sword's
an actual?
there's no way it's a real sword. I mean, if anything, it could have been cardboard.
Yeah, I'm sure it was
It's
Yeah.
the
chalk,
effect that
right?
it puts
That's
out.
probably
Yeah, I was just gonna
cardboard.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't even real metal in there. I bet you it's like
No.
it's like it's plastic or
Rubber or
Cardboard.
cardboard. Right, rubber or cardboard. It's a sound effect that makes us, the audience, feel that it's make it sound like metal.
It probably had to be cardboard because even plastic gorilla would be too dangerous. I mean, even a plastic, knife going in somebody's eye would not be a good thing, right? So, I bet it's
Best part
cardboard.
here is where we think he's going to be violent, but then he's not, and you realize that not all of John is gone.
Yes. Just enough to get past the censors.
It works. It works for me because the things that they can't get past the censors with are what tell us that all hope isn't truly lost, while still giving us that apprehension as to what he's going to do.
It
Right, and
actually kind of
also,
added
it's a good
to.
thing. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Pat. It kind of added to the episode actually that the censors did maybe stick their nose in a little too often because it actually maybe improved the episode. Come to think of it.
We'll notice too that they made sure to not direct his anger towards the children. So at least most of his sadistic actions are towards the other adults in the show.
Right. But it still, still made them put these scenes in where, obviously, Professor Robinson is still there, at least partly, right? So I think it kind of adds to the episode.
Yep, I would agree. And so here's where he does stop. Obviously, he pulls out this, the blade that we're talking about, and he ends the fight and the scuffle with him and Don. And we cut back to the Jupiter 2, and the kids are worried about him. Of course, it's night; they're supposed to be in bed. Dr. Smith comes up in his nightgown. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a nightgown. And his nightcap and gown, I'd say.
Didn't they call that
I
a
keep
bed
thinking.
shirt?
I don't know. I keep thinking of Ebenezer Scrooge used to wear that. And
Yeah, I remember Christmas Carol. Scrooge wore that. Yeah.
And the guy, the father narrator from "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" was wearing that.
Oh, okay.
Basically, the father of the family, where he looks out the window and he sees Santa Claus. My wife and I in my kerchief. My wife. I don't know. It's been too many years. It took me a while to remember that rhyme poem. My
This
wife
one
in her
also calls
kerchief
back
and
to. Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I
It's
just
fine.
remembered it's my wife in her kerchief and my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. That's right. Went out from outside the rose clatter. I strained in my bed to see what was the matter. That's right. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Jill.
No, that's great. It's the season for the St. Nicholas tale. But this
Almost.
Yeah, I just realized I
it's
should probably
so-
put my tree up in a couple of weeks. Damn.
it's kind of funny that that Dr. Smith is being so nurturing here, but it also ties back to the first episode again, or early Dr. Smith. I'm not sure if it was the first episode where he was like, "Oh well, they're probably dead. It's time for you to move on."
That was funny. Yes, I
And-
was laughing as he assumes that everybody's already dead. And he tells them that. It's like, yes, as usual.
Yeah, and but of course it's because of his cowardice that he doesn't want to go try to help. But it works really well to bring you back to early Smith and the early sinisterness of, I don't know. It's just cool.
Well,
But I do have to step
right.
away
Uh-oh.
from it.
Did we lose
Go for it.
Gorilla?
Oh, I hope Gorilla can go back. I'll be back. Computer died, he says in the chat.
Oh, okay.
Let me
thought
cover
maybe
that
he
real
just-
quick here.
I thought he maybe just decided to take a nap, but
Basil Battle Dragon says it was probably a fake bleed. I'm sure
it
it
had
was.
to be.
They're not going to allow. Yeah, they're not going to allow a real knife on the set like that. Gorilla's Random Thought says, "I'll be back. Computer died." Understand, Gorilla. So he's
Oh,
probably
no.
rebooting right now as we speak.
Gorilla doing his best Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation there.
Right, and I wanted to touch on what Gorilla, what Jill was talking about. Is right? He's being more like the original Dr. Smith, but I noticed that they're making sure this episode only has one villain. So it's like, yes, we're getting back to the original Dr. Smith, but he's not really sinister like the sinister Dr. Smith, because that way we get two bad guys in this one episode. And I think they think, or maybe perhaps, I don't know if they thought about this, that John having Professor Robinson being the bad guy in this episode is dark enough as it is, and they didn't want two of them. So, and this is actually an episode where Dr. Smith is a balance to that. And yes, he's like the conniving, lying Dr. Smith. You still can't trust him, but he seems a lot more gentle and calmer and kinder in this episode than he normally is.
He's being very nurturing in his cowardice. He's being very sweet.
Well, I thought,
Right. So
yeah, I
the best
agree,
you can
Jill.
the best you can get from him.
I thought exactly. Like, I love this scene because he comes out, he's made a late night snack for the kiddies, and he's just trying to be a really nice guy, even though it's we know his motivations, but it is kind of a sweet scene actually.
Well, you think that scene with him making them snacks and trying to encourage them to go to bed, you think that would have been Maureen doing that scene? But
Yeah,
I
you
guess
think
it was
so, right?
Dr. Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
says, "I don't want a couple of tired kids on my hands," and it's like, oh, who is this guy? It's Daddy Smith all over again.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's a scene where Dr. Smith was reading, because as we know he had a hand in the scripts, and I'm wondering if before they shot it he saw that scene and said, "I want that scene," and he probably had
wouldn't be
more say
surprised.
so than June Lockhart.
Mm.
Like how Captain Kirk or William Shatner took a lot of scenes and dialogue away from the other characters. That seems like something here that may have happened.
She's trapped in
And
a
even in the
cave,
morning,
so-
there's yes. Oh, that's right. She's trapped in the cave. That's right. Excuse me. Right.
And
they're
then, of
trapped
course,
in-
to continue that.
Sorry about that,
yeah.
guys.
That's okay.
Right,
Bob.
they are
No
trapped
worries.
in the cave, but of course, Dr. Smith and the kids don't seem in too much of a hurry to go rescue them. This may have been the scene. Now that I think about it, this is the scene where Kanto walks up and you could see his shadow on the floor wall or in the background.
Smith isn't in a hurry to rescue them, but Will and Penny are. He just keeps
Naturally.
stopping them. He's like,
Right.
"You gotta sleep. You gotta eat."
Well, because Smith is, of course, already written them off. He's already acting like they're already dead, but without telling the kids that. So here they seem surprised, and nobody seems to recognize who this is walking up to the ship. But of course, it is through the voice of Kanto and not Professor Robinson. And he informs them that the rest of the Robinson family are already gone. They were taken back to his ship. But he calls them friends, but he says he disagrees with them. And he said he was left behind, and he's trying to act like he's more sympathetic towards the family. So yeah, this was a little surprising for them, obviously, telling them their parents and Dawn are already off the planet. They've been taken away in a spaceship to the planet Quasti. See, here's where he says, "I do not approve of what my friends are doing." So he's acting like he's in conflict with it. But even they don't seem to follow this ruse very long. They quickly realize here that they know that's him. And he talks about the spaceship here. And of course, he still has eyes on the Jupiter too. And for some reason, he tells them, and here's another giveaway, is he tells them that people from his planet came and took the rest of the Robinsons and Dawn away. But then he tells them he still needs the Jupiter too, so they can go back to that very same planet. So that really doesn't make sense either, because then you think, well, why didn't you go with them when they left?
Yeah,
and of course, Will even says, I don't believe a word you say.
Yeah, he says, I didn't see any other spaceships.
Well, exactly. For a super powerful villain, he really kind of messed up there, didn't he?
You would think so. Or you think, for an advanced, right, an advanced civilization, an advanced race like that, he'd have another ship or another means. And of course, Dr. Smith is still making excuses and apologizing to the alien, saying that Will is overwrought. The strain of losing his parents, you do understand.
Dr. Smith is sucking up again.
Terrified.
Yeah.
And of course, Will is moping around. Now we cut to later. And Will is moping around, concerned about his parents. And he gets a visit from Kanto. And of course, they don't show the others working on the ship, but he says that they are working on the ship to get it ready for its departure. But Will says he's not going with them. He's not leaving. And the robot says the same. If Will doesn't go, then I'm not leaving it as well. And so this is where Kanto realizes that he has a rebellion on his hands. Sure, but we're lying again. I know it. And this is the part that I mentioned earlier where the censors had a heavy hand in which voice we're hearing, on whether it be the voiceover by Kanto or by Professor Robinson. And like I said, this is the scene I was thinking that reminded me from Star Wars. The part where
it does, because Will is very brave in this scene.
He is. And the whole scene is he's interacting with his father. He's overcoming the main obstacle of the bad guy. He's banishing his father's evil side, just like with Darth Vader, because that's what happened on that precipice on the Death Star. Is he pretty much abolished his father's evil side, which humbled the father, brought him back to being a good guy. And then that's when the father said, take this mask off so I can see you with my own eyes. So this reminds me almost directly from it. There's no way it could have been a coincidence. Even shot and the angles and everything is almost just like it.
Well, another thing I just want to mention quickly is the precipice thing. Reminds me a lot of a season 3 episode that's my favorite episode of the entire series, the Antimatter Man, because there is a scene with a bridge like that, a rock bridge or whatever, and it totally reminds me of that episode because they were in a precarious position.
Right, and even as a kid, I thought that when they show the precipice, that the chasm there, I think they did a really good job of matching up the stock footage, because obviously they didn't shoot that for the show. That's somewhere else, probably from a different movie. But the lighting and the film grain, it matched up really well, especially when they show him toss the mask down. So they were able to get it to blend in there really well. I don't know why that seems kind of crazy, but I always like when they can get stock footage to match best as possible. So basically what happens is Kanto threatens to throw... I keep thinking Quanto from Total Recall. So Kanto tells him that he's basically going to push him over, and Will appeals to him and his father's side and tells him that I love you, I'm still your son. Don't you remember who I am? That'll stick. Love conquers all. And then what happens is, of course, Kanto loses his struggle with the personality of Professor Robinson. Professor Robinson comes to the surface and takes off the mask. And and tosses it over the precipice, and we could see it falling in the stock footage. And then
With the
here's where
mask
he's
goes the alien spirit.
right. What's funny is where you can hear the voice falling along with the mask, so the mask takes the spirit with it, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
you know,
Yeah.
I've seen this trope so many times. So with that love conquers all thing, it's like, can we come up with original idea, please?
Well, it's been around for a long time, and it's going to continue to be around. It's such an
Well,
old
Well,
trope.
what the point it was in this episode is that John's spirit was stronger than the spirit that was trying to take over him.
because John
Yes.
loved his son so much, and that's what killed the spirit.
Right, family conquers all. Right.
Well, like Girl said, love conquers all. Such an old trope, but I would imagine William Shakespeare probably invented that, right? I'm just guessing, but I wouldn't be surprised.
I don't know. I just want something. I don't know. I just have seen that trope used quite a bit.
Oh, it's used all the time, but I guess it's used all the time because
Well,
it's
it's
a good one,
overused
right?
by Disney.
But
Oh,
it
that's
can
for
be
sure.
if it's used well, like in this episode, though. It can be effective, right?
Yeah. Well, J.K. Rowling even used it in Harry Potter. That's the main theme of that.
Yeah, exactly.
It
That
is
reminds
amusing.
me. That reminds
And
me. I was
he's
listening to a podcast, and I want to ask you guys your opinion. Okay, in how old is the trope? And this includes especially Disney movies, where the bad guy is always pushed over, like a mountain or some kind of deep crevice, and they end up dying to their death by falling. Would you say that's a common trope?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Yeah,
I'd say it.
I don't know how old it is.
I haven't seen that in a while, but
I'd say it. Yeah, it's definitely
Well, I don't
something
remember.
I've
I'm
seen
not wondering
before.
how old
Yeah.
it is. I'm just wondering how common it is. Yeah, but it seems like the
But-
bad guy a lot seems because I was hearing that on a podcast and I thought, well, that's true. A lot of times they're dealing with the bad guy, like Krug in Star Trek 3, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Where Captain
Oh,
Kirk
yeah.
kicks the
I
Klingon and he
have
falls
had
into
no.
right.
Of
And then
you.
the bad guy in Die Hard. Bad guy in Die Hard. It just
Oh
seems like
yeah,
common
that's a
trope.
classic. That one. Yeah.
well,
yeah.
or you got
Yeah.
Aragorn in Lord of the Rings.
There's a Fallout
Saruman,
something I haven't
but-
seen.
Well, he got ran over a cliff by a bunch of orcs there. Oh, but they did in a deleted scene have Saruman plunge to his death onto a spike there off the tower of.
Oh, and
Isildur.
that gets put back into the movie if you watch the extended edition, which is the only way to watch Lord of the Rings.
The extended 11-hour edition.
12.
12 hours. Oh my good lord!
I was
Oh.
kidding.
Well, for
Wow.
I was
No, all
kidding.
three movies.
If
Oh,
I was
God.
going to watch, if I was going to watch a 12-hour movie, I'm going to have to stock up on the eggnog first.
well,
I didn't
okay,
stock up in the
it was a
methamphetamine.
trilogy. When I say 12 hours, I mean the entire trilogy. All
Oh,
three
thank
movies.
God! I thought you
Oh,
meant
come
one
on.
film. I was thinking,
come
oh, that's
on.
Okay,
too
Come on,
much.
Jill.
the entire trilogy. Oh, good. That's only 4 movies. Oh, that's only 3 hours for each, or 4 hours for each movie. That's not
Uh-huh.
bad, is
Yeah.
it? It's like,
Uh-huh.
oh,
No, it's amazing. I love it all.
That's still a lot of eggnog.
well,
guys.
I give them credit. If they can do the 4 hours and not be boring, then good for them.
Hey, Peter Jackson did an excellent job on the movies.
He
Well, I'm
did
not-
everything. It's always moving.
For me, I'm not a fan of The Lord of the Rings, but I am a fan of Peter Jackson. So, yes, I completely. I love his earlier movies. I think he's a very talented director. He doesn't do enough. The last thing he did was what, King Kong? It's like, I don't know, what is he doing anymore? But yeah, I really miss his work.
Well, I know. Didn't he just do that new Beatles video a couple weeks back?
I don't know. I
This
know he
new
did The
Beatles-
Hobbit. Nobody seemed to like The Hobbit. Would you?
Oh no,
guys think-
that was
okay.
terrible.
I heard the
That's
Hobbit
what I was going to
sucked,
say.
yeah.
Yeah, that was just a cash grab from what I heard.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't necessarily bad. It was just the fact that they were taking a children's story that was just one book and stretching it into 3 movies, and you don't need 9 hours to tell The Hobbit. You need less than
Jeez.
2 hours. Less than 2 hours of a really cute, funny, heartwarming kind of adventure because it's a lot lighter in tone than Lord of the Rings because of course it's a children's book. and they didn't capture that at all. But
It just smelled of a cash grab.
I feel like there's a way you can take those 9 hours and cut it up into 2 hours maybe and make something really great from what they did film.
There's probably a fan edit somewhere on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I think there might be, but I don't know where it is. I need to look for it.
You know how YouTube is. Everything's on YouTube, so I'm sure there is probably a fan edit. So here's where we have Professor Robinson comes to his senses, tosses the mask over the crevice, and also by doing so takes the possessed spirit with it. And now
and speaking of Harry Potter, at least this alien spirit only had one Horcrux.
How many in Harry Potter?
Well, there's a contentious debate on it. There's meant to be 7, but people are arguing on whether or not Harry became
George, I'm one of those people who think he is.
Or he became like
he was, because that's why he had to quote unquote die and then come back in order for Voldemort to truly be defeated. So I don't think there's a question about it. I think there are 8.
I can't argue that. I haven't seen the movie, so yeah, I go for it.
I didn't expect to actually have somebody to talk to about it, so thank you, girl.
Well, that's good to hear. And now we get our preview for next week in full living color.
So we got our
first glimpse. Right. So if anybody of you who are wondering what they look like, what their costumes look like, what the Jupiter 2 look like, what the robot looks like in color, now we're going to get our chance.
Hey,
and I think it looks magnificent. Still got the chariot. And here's where Don exclaims that they're digging for fuel, as far as I know. And here's where we have where Dr. Smith builds a lifelike self statue of himself. And of course, he's doing a commencement speech and a christening. And while Judy and Don and all them are supposed
lying
to work
around.
Yes, exactly. I'm assuming he carved it.
I can't believe Dr. Smith put that much work into anything, to be honest.
I know exactly. That's supposed to be it. That's true.
Can you imagine Dr. Smith with a hammer and a chisel carving this thing? Like, I can't. I really can't.
No, I can imagine him making the robot do it, if anything.
That's probably actually what happened. Yeah, that makes sense now.
Right, I could see him posing for it and telling the robot to do all the work.
I love that line.
Oh no, but the robot would have done a better job on the face.
What was that? An inner abstraction of myself? Was that the line there? Yes,
to explain why the statue doesn't look like him. Judy's falling. Yeah. Oh no.
Oh no, we're getting an earthquake. So that's what happened. If you're wondering what's Judy, she's not dancing. There's an earthquake and everything starts shaking. And unfortunately, Judy falls. Dawn is trying to stabilize the drill here, but unfortunately, it falls as well. And now we get our.
What are they drilling for? They've got a fuel synthesizer now.
You'd think so.
That's why I was wondering about earlier when I was saying. Now I can't remember if Kanto said that they're going to make fuel or they're going to dig for it, because they obviously were working on that machine with the cosmic detector. And then now we have, but they're back to drilling again, unless they're saying, well, we need water before we leave. But I thought he said that they were digging for fuel.
I guess we'll find out when we watch that episode.
I need to look at the script again.
Yes, I guess we will find out soon enough. Okay, so by the way, everybody.
Oh, sorry, Pop.
Yeah, I can't wait. I was going to say, just remind everybody, we're not going to immediately go into that episode next week. We're going to be showing the original pilot, No Place to Hide. Then we'll pick up with season 2 week after next. So that's when we'll get the conclusion of that cliffhanger we just saw.
Very cool.
Okay. And by the way, a lot of the music came from this episode came from The Day the Earth Stood Still. The Wish budget from 20th Century Fox. 20th Century Fox was hoping that they would spend $130,980 on this episode. The final cost ended up being $135,189. It looks like at this point, Batman was number 1 in the ratings. Lost in Space was number 2, and The Virginian was number 3. The Western show, for those of you that are not sure what I'm talking about. This was the last black and white episode. The original cliffhanger shown by CBS was a setup for Attack of the Monster Plants, the first Lost in Space episode to be repeated by the network. When Follow the Leader aired over the CBS on August 17, 1966, it had an audience share of 33.5, giving it the second highest Nielsen rating of all the summer repeats, just below the rerun of The Lost Civilization. That is crazy.
That is weird. No accounting for taste, I guess, eh?
At this time, Batman had only been on the air for 4 weeks. CBS had yet to determine whether Lost in Space was performing well enough against the much-hyped new series to warrant a second season on the network. Within weeks of Herman Rush's letter, however, the renewal had come. Let me go back. As early in the final days of January 1966, while War of the Robots and the Magic Mirror were interwoven into the desperation tactic of a parallel shooting schedule, Irwin Allen's TV agent was putting pressure on CBS to make a decision about renewing Lost in Space for a second season. It was clear to all involved that a demanding series of this type needed an earlier pickup from the network than more conventional shows. To avoid a repeat of having to film 2 episodes simultaneously, Herman Rush believed that Lost in Space should get writers working on scripts well in advance of the other shows on the network and have episodes into production at the earliest possible date. On January 27th, Rush wrote to Irwin Allen, "I have requested immediate pickup from CBS and Lost in Space for 1967. They have replied that it will take well into the middle or end of February of 1966. I have also requested money for 10 scripts immediately. They promise fast answer." And then this is where I said that Batman's only been on the air for 4 weeks at this point. So in its February 23rd, 1966 issue, Variety announced that Lost in Space would return to CBS in the fall. A week later, on March 2nd, the trade magazine printed the first round draft of all 3 network schedules for the new season. Lost in Space would remain the 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. time slot against NBC's The Virginian and ABC's Batman, with a new Western series called The Monroes, which of course never lasted or went anywhere. CBS was not about to ditch a series that lured viewers by the millions back to the network at 8 p.m. as soon as the Cape Crusader cleared the airwaves. So they deliberately put this up against Batman. From that point on, Space won its time. Lost in Space won its time slot. Sorry, bear with me for here. I got it. I'm just trying to turn the page and it's taking me forever. My pages sticking together. There we go. All right, sorry. From that point on, Lost in Space won its time slot and delivered a sizable audience to the CBS, which followed the Beverly Hillbillies, Green Acres, and the Dick Van Dyke Show, allowing the Columbia Broadcasting System to claim most watched network honors for a 2-hour block of the Wednesday primetime period. So that's good. Thanks to Lost in Space, it led them into their Wednesday night slot, and they were winning the ratings for that evening. So, with Lost in Space being second, that definitely helped. And when you think about it, 33% share of America, that's incredible. That's something you'd never see anymore, especially now with hundreds of channels on. Imagine just one channel getting a third of all the audience.
Yeah, that would never happen. I mean, it's a different world now, right, Pop? Basically.
It is. During the summer repeat months, the editor of the magazine You Said It letters column in the TV Week newspaper supplement printed the following letters. "I am a girl, 14 years old, and I absolutely love Lost in Space. It's the greatest program that ever came out, and your TV Week is really something. I used to live in Kansas where they don't have anything like it out there. I also like it out here better. Now back to Lost in Space. Could you please tell me where or help me with this problem? Do you know if they have anything out of Lost in Space? such as pictures, autographed, or something out of them. Oh, yes, here's a poem for Lost in Space. So this is written by a 14-year-old girl. In space they roam, far, far from home. On a planet they stay, with Dr. Smith in their way. They hope they will leave from where they have started, if they will get enough petroleum to go, so they and the planet will be departed. And her name is Gail Mitchell from Pomona.
That was a good poem.
Not bad, huh?
Yeah, for a 14-year-old, not bad at all. Well, the petroleum part's a little shaky, but other than that, I was pretty great.
A few weeks after
Yeah, that
falling
was
leader,
lovely.
It
I
didn't
like
run on
hearing from the
petroleum, but
fans.
other than that, I like that poem. Sorry, guys, go ahead.
well, and unlike these days, she's actually literate for a 14-year-old. She didn't get her
Well,
education
hell
from
yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah, she knows how to write something really good. Like, I'm impressed, actually.
Yep. A few weeks after, Follow the Leader first
Oh
aired on
no, I
CBS.
know. My son asked if he could use AI to write, and I was like, "No, what are you thinking?"
Oh, oh my God! Well, at least he
Yeah,
asked
well,
you first instead of just doing it.
I'm glad he told you,
True
though,
enough.
Jill.
He warned me.
That's good. But seriously, if you're using AI to write your stuff, it's like, well, you're not really writing at all, are you? Really?
No, nope. A few weeks after, Follow the Leader first aired on CBS. A syndicated newspaper filler article was picked up by the Pasadena, California Independent Star News, reading in part. Jonathan Harris, admitting to a healthy streak of ham, loves applause as well as any actor. But this season, as television's original special resident villain, he has found something he likes better. His special appeal was dramatized the other day when Harrison dined at a Hollywood restaurant, which happens to be an in place for the younger set. A table of teenagers kept staring, and Harris stared back as only he can. Finally, he decided to ignore them, and that did it. They began hissing, first almost inaudibly, then building to a crescendo of hisses. Harris rose from his table, faced his audience, and hissed back. They loved it, and so did I, he said, never once questioning that his hissers were ardent fans. Harris knows, as does every villain worth a sneer, that a hiss can be more flattering than the most thunderous applause.
Oh, he has such a
Days
good
later,
attitude about it. I'm glad he played along.
I know, that's great. And he loved his fans, which is definitely great.
Well, it shows you
Days
how
later,
effective he was, though, when the fans are hissing him. Like, they can't separate the actor from the villain, which I think is really cool, actually.
exactly. And he plays the character for them and in front of them. I like
Well,
that.
a lot of
Yeah,
actors
yeah.
who are villains and they get that kind of reaction, they react negatively to their fans, like when they're treated when they're like when that's the reception they get, and they don't get
Exactly.
it, and he seems to get it.
Well, he was still,
Days,
even in that situation, he was still playing Dr. Smith all the way, right? Which is fantastic,
Exactly.
you know? Yeah, very cool.
days later, Harris was profiled in a UPI syndicated article, clearly enjoying the perks of his newfound status as a network TV series, quote, lead. Harris rejoiced. I live in Encino on a hilltop overlooking the world. This is the first time I've ever lived in a house, and I've gotten mad about working in the soil. I was born in New York and lived my life in apartments. I hope I never have to move back to New York, and I'll never live in an apartment again. Harris loved his new kitchen as well. He said, I adore cooking French and Italian dishes, but I'm also famous for my baked steaks. His home was a half-hour drive from the 20th Century Fox studio. He says, I don't get at home much before 7:40 in the evening. It just gives me enough time for a couple glasses of booze, a steak, and bed.
Oh, that's good. That's funny.
Yeah, I really like that. I want to remind everybody I did put a poll in the chat this week. I actually did remember.
I
If
did
you haven't
vote.
done so yet, please, thank you. Please consider voting on what grade. Oops. Well, PvP just ended it by saying he voted and then he left. Okay. Yes, please vote if you get the chance. What grade you would give this episode, or what grade you would give our coverage or our stream of this episode. And it looks like PvP is back.
Am I not
Let's see if
back?
it's going to
Am
let
I
me.
back?
There you
For
are.
some
Yeah.
Welcome
reason,
back.
yeah. A good old StreamYard kicked me. It says like try your internet connection and then try again, and I clicked the button, and thank goodness it actually worked. That was weird.
Hmm. Sorry.
I don't know why
Okay,
it
so
did
yes,
that.
it's always been having issues. It does that to me sometimes.
Oh yeah, okay.
But if you're listening in the chat, like I said, I hope you enjoyed the stream. Please vote. I'm going to be going around here and covering everyone's rating on the panel, and then I will share the results of the poll afterwards. And once again, I'm going to go in typical clockwise order, and I'll ask Gorilla first.
Wait. No, I want Jill go first. Oh, I want Jill go first.
Yeah, let
I
Jill
show
go first.
and I
Ladies
show
first.
PvP first. Okay.
Really? Okay. The incredible nature of this episode, it was completely unexpected for me because the past few episodes have been kind of middling to poor-ish. And this was a great way to sing out the black and white era of the show. It was such a wonderful performance by Guy Williams. I had such a great time seeing him inhabit a completely different character, unnerving even to see him treat his family with so much aggression and anger. And yes, even though it was held back by the censors as to how much scarier he could have been if he were given the chance. Even given that limitation, he did splendidly with it, and even hinting at the possibility of ending them, and that was pretty eerie. And it was like Lost in Space's invasion of the body snatchers with just one body, one snatcher. But it was wonderful, interesting, well done as a catalyst to finally get them off the planet. Something I was hoping for at the beginning of the series, and as we went on, I kind of just gave up. But it, I'm so glad that the writers of this show did not give up on that. Finally, and now that and this alien also solved the issue of the fuel, of the repair problems to the ship, so now they can move on because they were stuck. And so now the Jupiter 2 will be able to lift off into season 2. And so I was so entertained and engaged in the story the entire time, making this very effective possession narrative. I think they tried to do something similar before, and they tried to do horror in the past, and I think this is the first one that really did it for me. And it's great that John's love for his family and his overall strength of character, his strength of will overpowers the aliens. And so that is what makes this episode succeed. And I didn't even think about the Star Wars thing, but totally. Kanto says he's fully taken over his mind, and Don fights for his friend against his friend, which also amplifies Don's characteristics, which a lot of the characters get their moments too, of course, with Will being so brave at the end, standing up to his father. And this was a wonderful series finale because it takes everything we learned about these characters, how much they care for each other, and through all of this with the parents missing, Dr. Smith even tries to be nurturing, which I know he's doing it through his cowardice and thinking that the parents are dead and there's nothing they can do for it. But in a way, it's weird to see Dr. Smith not having some kind of scheme outside of just being afraid. And the alien comes to deceive them and everything, and I don't know. The funny part is all they have to do is get rid of the helmet to get rid of the alien influence. So I guess the alien was trapped in there, trapped in the mask somehow. His soul. So yes, that's what made me think of the Horcruxes from Harry Potter, or if Lord of the Rings, where it came from. The ring was inhabited by Sauron's soul also. And I think this episode embodies everything that is great and everything that is a little bit silly about Lost in Space, but it does it so perfectly. Great blend.
Excellent.
A plus.
All right. And would you like to tell us about your channel?
Sure. My channel is Antiderivative Jill. I like to celebrate science fiction and lots of other surrounding fun stuff about it. And tomorrow I'm going to review season 3 of the original series, episode 6 in production order, called Spock's Brain. And
That's right. Everybody's favorite.
It's everybody's favorite. It's the most infamous episode, even though it's not the worst, but I can't wait to talk about it.
Oh, I'm biting my tongue. I want to make a comment so bad, but I'm biting my tongue.
And on Friday, I should have a shore leave episode. I think I'll be able to get away from the holidays for a little bit to say hi to you guys on my channel.
Hey, I'll be able to join you.
So shore
Okay,
leave
great.
will be open topic as usual, I'm guessing, Jill?
Yeah, pretty much. I think Scotty might want to watch a Madman episode, but that won't take. We won't get too heavy into that. I don't think.
I've never watched Mad Men, so I probably won't
Me either.
do that.
Me either. Well, I'll get it. We'll get it out of the way early, and then we'll talk about whatever.
Okay. I just want to mention I have a couple of I got a phone call I got to take at 10 a.m. my time, so I'll probably miss the first little bit of your stream on Friday, Jill. And other than that, it should be good to go. So.
Okay.
All right, very cool. And PvP, what say you? What do you think about this episode?
Well, gosh, I don't know what to say that Jill didn't say already. Wow, that's got to be one of the longest reviews of the whole season. I'm guessing.
I'm sorry, I was just making notes for the episode, and then I got extremely excited, and I was like, "This is my review."
Great. That was great. I loved it. Don't apologize. That was awesome. I mean, I'm so glad you enjoyed it so much. You gave it an A+. That's cool. I personally gave it an A because I really enjoyed it. But there are a few episodes that I have to give an A+ to. So that's why I always grade it down a little bit if it's not my absolute favorite. But yeah, everything you said basically about this episode, I agree with. I did like to finally, see Professor Robinson, get a little bit of screen time. Well, got a lot of screen time, and Guy Williams can be a fantastic actor when he's got a decent script to work with, right? Which, thank goodness, he finally did it on this episode. And I keep begging Jill to one day consider even remotely watching the first episode of Zorro, because Guy Williams, I mean, as good as he is in this, he's even better in Zorro. Like, he is fantastic in Zorro. Anyway, I won't belabor that point because I don't want to annoy Jill, but I think it's something. Please do consider it at some point because it really is a great show. Let's see. Moving on. Gosh, what else? What else can I say? I like Smith. Smith was good. I liked him when he was trying to be nurturing with the midnight snack stuff. That was pretty funny. The robot kind of figuring out what was going on with the possession thing was definitely a bit weird. It didn't really make any sense logically, but at the same time, the robot does develop all through the series, and we actually see him develop even more in season 2. He does, start to, I think, accelerate his development a little bit. And finally, we're getting off the planet in the first episode of season 2. It's about time, right? And I just want to mention to Jill, I think I might have caused her concern when I said they don't get around a lot, but I think the first 4 episodes of season 2, Jill, they actually are in space, going to different planets, so that's kind of fun. And then in season 3, I think they actually go to like 11 different planets in that season, so they do get around a lot more in the galaxy, as the show goes on. So that's really good stuff. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know, like there's a lot to look forward to. I know I kind of paint season 2, a little bit with a broad brush of not liking it, but there are some really excellent episodes. So don't despair. There's some good stuff coming up, and the color thing is such fun. And geez, I wish I could think of something more serious to say about this actually, but Joe pretty much covered it. So I guess I will just wrap it up there.
Okay.
But yeah, a episode.
All right, and anything about your channel you'd like to share?
I got my second playlist of songs 3 minutes or less just about done. I'm just tweaking it, trying to figure out the last few songs I'm going to put on at the end of it. And I was hoping to get that done this week, but it'll probably be maybe I'm thinking Wednesday night, Thursday, something like that when I get it all together.
Very cool. I appreciate that. Thank you, PvP.
You're very welcome, Pop.
All right, and last but not least, Gorilla. What say you? What is your give us your opinion about this episode?
Automatic F. I mean, granted the show came out first, but yeah, so many tropes. No, I'm just kidding. No, but the problem with this with reviewing these old shows is we see these tropes that may have gotten started around this time, and heck, this show might have been the first one, but then you like see them over and over again, and then you're like tired of them, even though they were probably new when they first come out, like the love conquers all, someone's not acting right, so obviously it's like nobody can guess that it's an alien thing, even though they run into aliens every week and stuff, but overall it's a good episode there. Though I thought the ending was just a tad too bit easy to figure out there, but it's a nice dark episode and stuff I like. There's not much more I can add that wasn't that Jill hadn't already said and stuff like that. I'm gonna give it an A.
Cool. Or you want to tell us about your channel?
Well, let's see. I got two. I'm down to 2 watch parties a week. That's our Justified on Wednesday nights. It's a really good show there. And then on Sundays, we're starting our 6 weeks of Christmas there. And we're going to start our first week with A Christmas Story Christmas. That's the new Christmas Story movie there. But then on Saturdays, we're going to start reviewing movies, which is Germ's pick this week. He hasn't given me that one yet. Then on Fridays, we review the Waltons. Then I'm going to try to get more daily shorts out if I'm not too busy during the week.
Nice. Very cool. And I do recommend his channel, everybody.
I just want to briefly mention before you do your review, Pop, if I may, I want to mention Gorilla's Walton's Fridays, which I love because, I always try and join the panel when I'm available. And I think, earlier on, somebody did request that I mention Judy Norton, who played Mary Ellen back in the series back in the 70s, because she does have a really fun YouTube channel on YouTube here. She recently, about the last week, she posted a video interviewing Michael Learned, who played Ma Walton, which was awesome. And Michael Learned still looks fabulous, by the way, at her age. And I just wanted to give a little plug for Gorilla's channel because I love the Walton streams that Gorilla does. They're really fun. And if anybody wants to go and check out Judy's stream, that would be great because her channel does deserve, to get a thumbs up or a sub. I did sub, and the cool thing was a few days after I subbed to her and left a nice comment for Judy, she actually took the time to reply and leave some really nice comments and thank me for subscribing. And she said, I hope you continue to enjoy my channel in the future. And yeah, that was like 800 comments on that stream, right? So I'm totally shocked she actually even noticed me, to be honest. But she seems like a really sweet lady. So yeah, I just wanted to plug it, plug Gorilla's Walton stream basically, and plug Judy's channel.
Very cool. If you'd like to, if you get a chance, PvP, maybe you could post a link to her channel in the main chat before our stream ends tonight.
Oh, yeah. Give me a second. I'll try and
Go
find
ahead
that
while I
right
give
now.
my review. Yeah, go ahead while I
Go
give
for
my
it.
review.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, and I'm gonna go right along, and I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record or just repeating what you guys have already said, but that's a chance I'm just gonna have to take. But I also give this episode an A. I think it was great, and like Jill said, they went out with a bang, which is always a good thing. It was a good way to end it because I know season 1 was kind of like somewhat of a bit of a roller coaster with some of the plots. I know sometimes they seem a little rather juvenile at times, sometimes whimsical or more on the comedic edge. But this one went out the darker, and it was well written. So I'm glad it bookended the season to get us ready for our excitement for season 2. And what you're looking at here is a picture of the rap party from the end of season 1. So it's kind of hard to see. Let's see if I could zoom in a little bit here. There's the cast, and they got a cake. They have a cake with looks like back then looks like Chinette plates. To that, shout out to Chinette. They've been around for a while, and there's their plate on that table. Here we go. So that's the cast and crew from Lost in Space, celebrating, like I said, a wrap party of season 1, which I thought was really nice. And of course, like you guys said, it was great to see Guy Williams shine and get to show his character in a different light. And we will see more of that later on, which will be a good thing. And it was nice when you think about it, the whole family actually got some really good scenes to do some work. Sometimes we don't get to see some of the girls at all, but everybody had a few lines at least. I guess Penny kind of had the least amount, but it was good to see her and Judy be able to work on this episode. This is a picture of Irwin Allen celebrating the sale of Time Tunnel to CBS. So when CBS greenlit Time Tunnel, they had a celebration with cake. That's Irwin Allen on the left, obviously with Bill Mumy. And the actress that plays Judy, my mind draws a blank now, on the right. I can't believe I can't remember her name. Not Angela Cartwright, what am I thinking of? No, PvP, help me out. What's Judy's name in real life?
Marta Kristen.
Marta Kristen. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I wanted to share this. Thank you. And I wanted to share this picture here. Pooches. Sorry, my dogs are being a little vocal. They want to go outside. So here, this is a picture here with Guy Williams, as you can see there on the right. Come on, where's my cursor? There we go. That's Guy Williams, and just to the right of him is his wife. And that is his son and daughter in the foreground holding Debbie the Bloop. So as it says here, the caption.
That's cool.
Right, Debbie's still there. One reason for the success of Lost in Space was a strong sense of family, which existed both in front and behind the camera. This was evident from day one. Pictured as Guy and Janice Williams, with children Stephen and Tony holding hands with Debbie.
That is an awesomely cool photo, Pop. Thank you so much. That's great.
So interesting. So he was a family man, and he had his own children. So that shows why his chemistry was so good in the show, and he was so believable. I mean, the guy was a father himself.
Yeah, I always like Guy.
That's why it works so well in this episode, especially.
Great actor.
And here's a couple behind-the-scenes photos. Yes, I completely agree. A couple behind-the-scenes photos here from this episode, which I thought looked nice. So they're publicity photos for CBS. And there they are posing.
I just want to quickly mention, I really like that weird necklace that Guy Williams was wearing as the character. That was fun. Very cool.
And I'm sure it helped save a lot of money, too, the fact that they had 20th Century Fox prop department at their disposal. All they do is say, okay, let's just dig into the prop department and let's see what we can find, which helped save a lot of money. And it made the shows look more expensive than they actually were.
Yeah, totally.
So, yes, I give the episode an A+. I'm excited now for season 2. We're going to jump off into a full living color. And it's going to look, I think all the colors are going to pop out. It's going to look amazing. I'm really excited. And I hope all of you can join us. It was a fun first season 1. And I'm sure it's going to be a second season. I'm sure it's going to be a great second season as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end it poll in the chat. And then cover the results of that. If I can not mess up on it this time. Let's see here. Of course, my dogs have always got to have some sort of commentary. Come on, I know I did this. Did it miss?
It'll be cool to see the pilot next week.
The pilot is very different than the
That's right. Thank you. And we're going to, yes, reminder. Next week is going to be the original pilot. Right. It's going to be very different. A little tonal. It's going to be a little. But now remember, now heads up. The pilot will not have Dr. Smith or the robot, and we're going to see a lot of clips that are going to be reminiscent of the first 5 episodes.
Oh yeah, there'd be a lot of clips.
Pops,
So
will you
here
be
we
able
go.
to send me a thing where I could watch it?
Yes, in fact, Jill, I was able to obtain it as well, so I have it also, and I'll send you the online link. I'll put the link for you in the Twitter. I'll put it in our streaming group to the
Yeah,
website that I found that does have the pilot, so that you guys can enjoy it.
I've got a website with all the episodes too, Gorilla. So I can post that in Twitter in the next few days.
It has the pilot.
Oh, I'll have to check. I'll have to double check.
No,
Maybe
that's what I'm
maybe not.
saying is yeah, right. That's what I'm saying is I have a link to the actual pilot
Oh, good,
because
good, good,
the other
good.
websites that have the series don't have the pilot on them. I had to find it
Oh,
separately.
that makes sense. Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, if you
So
can
it'll
post the
be
link.
yeah. So watch for it in the. I'll do that tonight after tonight's stream. So watch for that in the streaming group on Twitter.
Sounds great.
So here's we have our results of our poll, and I want to thank everybody for voting in the chat. And it says, "What grade would you give Follow the Leader?" And it looks like we have 11 votes, which is an amazing turnout. And it looks like 72% gave it an A plus to an A minus. 18% gave it a B plus to a B minus, which is nice. C plus to a C minus, gave it a 9. And as a joke, I have D plus to F minus because that's for people who really, really don't like it. But I'm glad to see that nobody really disliked it that much. So that's always a good thing. So, and once again, thank you for voting, everybody. I really appreciate it for you engaging with us. I hope it makes it more fun to make this a little more interactive.
Interactive is good.
All right. How are we doing on the chat, Gorilla? I think so. I know when I'm on other people's streams, it's more fun when they're
Poor
interactive.
Gorilla.
Oh,
You
I think
still
Gorilla just
awake
fell
there, Gorilla?
over.
Gorilla's
see,
ready to pass out from exhaustion.
we made Taylor
I'm trying to
here
wrap this
laugh,
up as soon as possible.
and here's a link to everybody's channel. Plus Judy Norton's channel. Thank you
Thank you.
very much
Yeah, I
doing
did post it. I did post it.
Thank you, Lemon Pie.
All right. So, right. And thank you, a double thanks also for everybody in the chat for joining us tonight. Like I said, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you had a good time. I hope it was entertaining. And hopefully you can be with us for next week. I'll be back on tomorrow night for our horror sci-fi stream. We're going to be covering the 1988 movie The Blob. And then Wednesday, we'll be back for 2 more episodes of Gilligan's Island. And then I'll follow that up with Saturday, another stream of Rumblings from the Lab.
Didn't we already cover The Blob?
We covered the original 1958 version. And now 30 years later, we get the remake from 1988. And I'm going to eventually cover also the remake of The Fly. That's another thing that's on our list eventually. Remember now, going into
That's cool.
yeah, I think you guys are going to enjoy it. They're really good movies, and they really stand out for sequels.
Yeah, I
And
know that one. I love Jeff Goldblum in that.
Fly
yeah, it was a good movie, wasn't
pretty
it?
intense. Well, that's Cronenberg, right? So Cronenberg's
Yes.
movies are usually pretty interesting, even
And
if
that
they're
doesn't
kind of stomach
no
churning at
disappointing,
times.
right? Right, and they're definitely not disappointing.
Yeah.
And reflecting the poll I had a couple weeks ago, we're going to be changing it up every week with different topics. So I was kind of under the weather this past week, which I apologize for. So I let Nemesis of Eden choose, and I think it was a brilliant suggestion of the Blob for tomorrow night. So all credit goes to Nemesis of Eden for that.
Oh, okay.
All credit or all blame?
Well, I think you'll like it once you see the movie. Give it a chance.
Yeah, I'll probably go and watch it right after the stream ends tonight because I haven't seen it yet. So.
Well, all right. My community tab on my channel, you'll find the link there so that you could see it for free online. You don't have to worry about paying for it somewhere. And I hope to see you all tomorrow night there. If you can make it, that'd be wonderful.
I'll be late.
It'll be
I'll
tomorrow
probably
night,
be on I'll probably be on an hour late because I got to work, but still,
okay.
I should show up.
Okay, that'll be tomorrow night, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. If you're able to make it, everybody. Okay, so I believe that's all it. Is there anything else anyone has to add before we get, or do you like to add before we close this?
Not much. I just want to mention to Jill again, don't despair, Jill. I know I've said season 2 is not my favorite, but there still are a lot of great episodes. So there's a lot of fun coming up, and it's nice to see it in color. And there are, times when they actually get off planets and fly around. So that's kind of fun too. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So we'll see what happens. Can't wait.
don't despair. It's good. It's all good.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a blast.
Me too.
Okay. Thank you, everyone in the chat. And most of all, thank you to my esteemed fellow panelists. A wonderful job you guys did tonight. Jill, thank you for the great job you did with the slides. And
You're
Gorilla helped
welcome.
me
And
with the
also
chat.
thank you
It really does.
to
I couldn't do it without you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks to Gorilla for the chat. And also thank you to everybody who's watching this on a replay or who's lurking tonight.
Yes, if you're lurking and you have not yet subbed, please do so. We're going to have a lot more of these coming up in the future. Our channels are constantly expanding, and we're always adding new material.
And don't
So with
forget to
that,
hit that like button, folks.
yes, thank you. So with that, also everybody have a wonderful night. Drive safe, especially if you have to work tomorrow. Get a good night's sleep. And I hope to see you, like I said, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time for our horror sci-fi stream. Like I said, it's going to be. So I'm sorry, my mind just drew a blank. The remake for The Blob from 1988. Have a great night, everybody, and oops, hold on just a moment. Take care.